They say when you wear Black Power Media gear, you can accomplish anything. You play any and every position. From coaching, to kicking, to receiving, to running and juking. And oh my goodness, let's see that again in slow motion. Get off me. And you're going to have a lot of haters coming at you, but what you got to do is you got to shake them off, and get to your goal and accomplish it. And when that's done, it's a beautiful thing. I'm talking about going hard, extra, for that extra point. And when it's done beautifully, you talking about touchdown. Oh, and the crowd goes wild and they're celebrating with you and everything. Man, let's see that again. Nice.
Black Power Media, baby. That's how we do it.
Now go to blackpowermedia.org and get you some of that gear. Empower yourself today. Yeah.
Yes.
Yo, what's up? How y'all feeling? What's up, Jared Ball? Dr. Jared Ball, how you feeling, man?
I'm great, man. How you doing? Greetings to you and everybody. Welcome to Earn Your Liberation, episode 14, right here on Black Power Media. Y'all, Jared Ball. Where Diallo at?
I was about to ask you at. What a diva.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he just texted us in the chat too, by the way. Maybe I missed it.
I'm convinced he does this on purpose to make his grand entrance. You know, what's up, folks in the remixers in the chat? Greetings to those who are here live this morning. Those who will see and hear this later. Greetings to you as well. Good morning. Good morning. Reach out, tell folks to join us. Like, share, subscribe. Put the show in your socials. Comment. Big pun in the building, bright and early. Anyways, what's going on, ZZ Lion? What's going on? What's happening? Anyway, yeah. So how you feeling, man? What's the latest?
Feeling cool, man. I'm actually catching up on all of the U.S. news with all those little situations happening with them young people going down the wrong road, knocking on the wrong door. It's kind of crazy, but other than that, I'm cool and trying to maintain.
Again, he's asking for the link. I don't understand why. You don't need a link.
Yeah, I think he'd be forgetting that you could just log in now.
He just did his show.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, whatever.
But yeah,
I told you I think he does this on purpose. He's just trying to make an entrance.
Yeah, that's how that guy do, man.
Yeah, that was one of the stories. There was another story this week that I'll be honest, I wasn't able to get into it.
Yeah,
you know, it was just too much. It's too much, man. Sometimes it's too much.
Yeah,
I know, right? This is Dairy, the grit of Pan-Africanism in the building.
Yeah. You know, when one day, if I ever have a house, what I wanted was my stairs to be my bookcase. So I like the library back there, but I keep seeing these stairs. Like my dream house is a houseboat, small ass house on the water, with upstairs being stairs. Country. What kind of city shit you on? Anyway, my stairs
living on a boat.
Hey, man.
Oh man, Diallo, your mic is not working.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's not a mic. It's
knocking shit around.
Oh, hold on.
It's just the room.
Oh, hold on.
So you bubble gum shrimping?
That's you know, I just want to live on the boat, man. I just want to live on. I grew up on the beach, man. So I always love the water. So I would love to be living on top of the water. But yeah.
After I don't even want to get in a canoe. I don't want to do no paddle boat.
Damn, living on a boat, man.
They talk about a cruise. My daughters talk about they want to go on a cruise. I was like, when you grown and on your own, have fun.
Like for that, man.
I was like, no more boats for your boy.
Ironically,
too much moisture.
One cruise. I've been on one cruise in my whole life, and that shit was whack. I went with the wrong people probably, but that shit was hard.
What kind of cruise did you go on?
It was just like what was it? Carnival, Royal Caribbean. I don't even know.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't. I don't know.
He can't remember. I bet that's right. You was loving.
No, it was it was in Orlando. It was
Okay.
like a. It was
Yeah.
like a.
I've seen
high
some of
school
them
reunion
clips
thing.
on social media. All right,
ain't
you're
seen
gonna
no
pop up. Go watch that Freaknik documentary. It'll jog.
There it is.
I mean, y'all niggas old enough. Y'all old enough to be there Freaknik in the first place. I was a young boy up in there Freaknik. Y'all, that was y'all prime. That's what y'all was getting it in.
We was, but that was on land. We didn't do Freaknik on the water. That's a whole new.
Hey man,
That's a whole new.
I'm sorry you guys ain't cultured. Ain't been out much. That's not y'all.
No, the only boats in my immediate and past ancestry have been involuntary, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. That's just.
Y'all don't play it, but y'all like both of y'all can't swim or something.
Oh, I'm actually a great swimmer. I like swimming. Swimming's very good, you know, and it's good for your back and for your core. But that's, you know,
that's about it.
That's about it.
Listen, I can swim, but purely survival tactic, not as a leisure. To me, swimming is about staying alive. It's not about pleasure and leisure or exercise. Certain things, you know. So
strictly survival.
Yeah, I'd be all right. If you put me in the deep water, I'll find the ledge or the coast. But I won't be enjoying myself while I do it.
Somebody said
I had
allergic to water.
I have a friend of mine and his wife said that they recommended, they went on one of those Black Love cruises or whatever, where you get like, you know, the aging soul band or R&B band playing. You get like the older generation comic. I forgot who they said was on theirs.
Sinbad.
Yeah, probably Sinbad or something like that. And but they said they had a great time. They were like they were trying to get us to go, and I was like, it just can't. It's just not something I get excited about. And plus, just the idea. I mean, I know obviously it's better than in the military, but you have and you know you can get upgrades or whatever. But just the living and just the tight quarter living and I was just like, nah, man, I'm good. I'm still not over it.
Well, there you go, y'all. Everybody over 6 foot don't like it. That's on y'all.
Oh, is that what it is? It's a height thing. It is true that I had to. I believe I had to. I don't think I have to sign. There was a brief conversation when I showed up on my ship, or when I was getting the orders, that I was just at the cusp of. There were height limits, but there was one brother that was on there had to be like at least 6'5", 6'6", and I know he was miserable because at 6'2", I couldn't even stretch out all the way in the bunk, and I would have to duck down in certain passageways. So I don't know how he must have just been. I hope he's all right today. His back must have got like he must be.
That's another one, man.
Yeah. So like, anyway, but yeah. Anyway, where we want to start this morning? What's going on, fellas? What's happening?
All type of stuff. So I mean, I don't know if Diallo wants with the St. Louis, Missouri, and Kansas City, Missouri, and a gun culture joint, or if we want to start with the audience.
So we did talk about.
Let's clear that air. Let's clear that energy.
The energy.
Let's align the chakras and purify the energy.
Okay.
Let's attune the.
Did I hear somebody hit a bowl? Did you hit a bowl?
Let's attune the vibrations before we proceed. We cannot proceed with this dark cloud over Earn Your Liberation.
Yeah. So do you all have a preference how you want to start? Do you want to?
So I only got a couple of comments. I went through as much as I could. I only got a couple that I think we should talk about. honestly, I wish some of the people could just literally come on the camera and have.
I mean, we can if you want. I can put the link in the chat
if they are around now, because I think some of them got saucy enough to be like, well, you should probably just come on camera and say that so we could.
Okay, here's the studio link. We're putting it in there. We're gonna for the
bad choice.
I'm just saying some people. I think some people
business.
I think some people really
in the door.
I think people think your life.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think people think some of our lives or your lives or my life revolves around opening this fucking camera and talking on a Friday. I think that's what they think our life consists of. So
Geechee out here cussing and everything.
Maybe they need to come on and we all kind of need to read our.
Well, that's what. Hey, listen. I since our last show, I've been in my sarcophagus meditating on issues around politics and struggle. And then when Friday morning comes, I arise.
Yeah, I'm here.
Wow. Okay.
Right over left. Right.
Just yapping. Right.
Right over left.
Yeah, there was, and I responded to one of the comments, both on Facebook and on YouTube, the same comment to Jupiter Hammond. I don't know if they're here this morning, but I'm happy. Yeah, I'm good. Good, but go ahead. Did you want to? And do you have them pulled? I have the comment section pulled up from that video if you want, if that helps. Otherwise, you can something you had.
Which video?
Well, I was thinking from the episode last week. That's where I saw some of the comments. But if you have others that you want,
So
I'm
guess
happy
I can
to start. Yeah.
No, I guess we can. So one of the comments, which was off this, it was on Facebook, and I think it's similar to other comments that we had, and it's obviously from a friend. But so I shared one of Tariq Nasheed's rants about, African people. Y'all don't even have y'all land. We got our land over here. We, y'all homeless. We not homeless. Just some dumb shit, right? And he was like, oh, Tariq normally says good stuff, and then he always follow with this dumb stuff. And I was like, well, do you have any evidence of him saying some good stuff? Can you send it? And then he, like multiple people on the post, said, well, Hidden Colors was good. And then, I proceeded to be like, well, I don't remember too much good shit about Hidden Colors. Could you kind of give me your point? And he was like, oh, man, you should do a documentary or whatever. And so it reminds me of the quote of like, well, what are you doing? And you should do this. Like I've written books. I've did lectures. I've written curriculums. I consult. We do podcasts, we do videos, so we do have content out there, and there are contents out there. Why do I need to do a documentary when there's tons of documentary out there that you don't even watch? So, I find it to be obviously reductive and dismissive, but I guess I want to kind of talk about this. I don't know, the what are you doing responses, the knee-jerk what are you doing responses, and then the contents that's out there. And then why people
let's take it back to a Hidden Colors response. My response to that nowadays will be let's take it back to Ancient Kemet. Let's take it back to where he went with I'm very negative confessions with this. So when people ask, well, if you're critical of Tariq and then Jared, what have you done? I say, well, let's go back to Ancient Kemet and say, I will confess to what I have not done. When I will stand before my At and say, I have not have I lied to my people and ripped them off. Not have I taken other people's work and repackaged it as something brand new and original. Not have I claimed to have ever been a pimp and to ever have extolled the virtues of pimping and disrespecting women. That's how I would do it. So let's focus on that, and then they can go and dig out, as they've done for Tariq, all the good that I've contributed to the world.
Well, I call this. I experienced this when I first got on social media. I call it the revolutionary resume, where people well, what have you done before you criticize other people? And I used to run down my revolutionary resume, name dropping the whole nine. But then I discovered something after years of doing this shit every time I get challenged. Not one of those people who ever asked me what I was doing contributed or joined what I was doing. You know, the people that ask what you're doing are not asking because they're interested in a compare contrast for their own edification or for to identify opportunities for them to get active or to embrace or to join what you're doing or to challenge it. So I stopped with the revolutionary resume, and I've literally line by line followed your code. You know, when I've criticized the minister and the Nation of Islam as a cult, and they're like, what are you doing? I start to say, well, I haven't found it a violent reactionary doomsday cult, you know? So I will stand on, and I stand on for myself, and I advise others, doing nothing is superior to doing the wrong thing. Doing nothing is a superior position to take and a more admirable thing to do than doing the bad things. So I would just say I've done nothing, you know, and I wish the people I was talking about would just stop doing. Sit the fuck down.
but so to me doing nothing, is that what you saying?
Right. Yes, like, doing nothing.
You doing not a damn
right.
thing.
If I've done nothing, I've beat most of these charlatans and demagogues at life by doing absolutely nothing.
So before I even kind of speak to one of the comments, and it was about Diallo with this same kind of thing, like Ricky in the comments says still join an organization, and then kind of a pause question like, okay, well, if you join Tariq's organization or you join any of these, I don't know, nonprofit organizations or whatever, is that sufficient? And so or maybe it is, and maybe you should be able to defend some of the shit y'all doing or talking about. But one of the things that strike me, and I don't know this one, Jared, but it's towards the end of this person's comments. I should have took the name. And they asked about what are we doing to move the black African masses 1 inch towards solidarity and liberation, or you just sprouting out words, which anybody can do, is not revolutionary or liberating. At what point, again, this idea of cats just waking up and just this is all we doing. But at what point do you stop being a YouTube revolutionary and actually do something material, consistent, and sustained, other than just make YouTube videos? Like one of the
pop up in people's comments and leave comments.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yo, if you're so revolutionary, how do you got time to watch fucking YouTube if that's what you're really doing? If you're in the streets
and wrong YouTube at that, like they spend all the time watching us be wrong for a couple hours and then left a comment.
Can I speak to that though? Because I think it goes deeper than that. This precedes social media. This is long before, because
that's true.
Since we've been brought here, African men especially, were brought here as beasts of burden. And from our forced entry into this country, we were always valued over our physical prowess versus our intellectual or philosophical abilities. And so, you know, my life, and I'm not tearing them down, but all my life I've been following white scholars, white lecturers, white philosophers all through school, white men who did nothing but wake up in the morning, throw a shawl on, and sit around and pontificate and articulate their ideas. And I've been to Christian Perini lectures. I've been to Noam Chomsky lectures. I've been to book signings, Ted Raw, various artists. I've been to all these gatherings of white men who did nothing but intellectual work, mind work, philosophical work. And they would be asked several questions, but not one person ever said, you do all this talking, you do all this writing, you do all this lecturing. What do you do? Not once. But I've been to see Dr. Ben. I've been to see Professor William Mackey, Dale Jones. I've been in the room with some of our greatest thinkers and scholars, and people in the audience are like, you doing all this talking. You know what? Somebody got up. I wasn't there physically, but somebody got up in Dr. John Henry Clark lecture and was like, "Why don't you go build a pyramid? You sitting here talking about a pyramid? Go build a pyramid." This is the beast of burden mentality that Black people have internalized. That African men, especially, but Black women face this too, but African men specifically, are intellectual, our philosophical, our brain work has little to no value. We are beasts of burden, and you got to show and prove. And so they diminish us, and you can have a man out there digging a trench to nowhere, and he will get more celebration than Black people actually, cultivating and demonstrating ideas and nurturing ideas that other people take, that the Chinese Communist Party, that other cultures and nations take our philosophies, our ideas, our concepts, our radical analysis, and use it to liberate themselves and structure their societies, while we sitting around talking about get out there and bale some hay, boy, get out there and dig that trench, because we are seen as, to this day, as beast of burden, specifically in the U.S. I don't see that as much in the like Caribbean. Philosophical, intellectual, cultural work is great, more appreciated. Even like there are Nigerian scholars I know that are celebrated when they walk down the street,
But
in
Diallo,
their communities.
But don't be too sad or mad, because in the same sentence he says, I agree with a lot of what Diallo says, but let's be frank. He's a classic armchair revolutionary. He makes good points, but often gets carried away with himself and starts drinking his own bathwater.
But who are not the armchair revolutionaries? Like, drop names and links to the organizations that we can support and join, or invite here to the platform to share with the rest of us. The other thing that I, in addition to my comedic response to some of this, is also, even if we've offered a criticism of Tariq or anybody else, we, at least I feel like, begin with, even when we're having some fun, we begin with a reference to a body of work and then proceed. I invite others to do the same for me or anyone else, that there is, whether it's YouTube or elsewhere, I and we collectively have left a body of work. If and I'm the first one to be critical of it. So if you investigate it, if you lay it out and offer up an analysis, there's plenty to be critical of, and then lay it out and have fun with it if you want. I mean, but to suggest that the fact of criticism makes you an armchair revolutionary, or the fact of being in a space, as Dr. Clark and others had been at one or another time, where people are today, giving a lecture or presentation or sitting on a panel, that in and of itself means you can't do anything revolutionary at any other point before or then or in the future, And then lastly, to the point that I think has come up a lot lately in terms of my show with anarchism and everything else, what are your definitions? So how do you define revolution, revolutionary, activist, activism? And then let's proceed from there. Who are the exactly? Who are the exemplars of this armchair revolutionary standard that we should
which gonna get scary, because once we get to the earn your leisure part of this, I for the first time read there about page, and they got revolutionary all up in that shit. So I would assume when folks talk about revolutionary, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, and I have enough love and appreciation of the people I call the action jacksons, the people who, this happens more so when we come together, and people, you can't have a gathering in the Black community where somebody doesn't stand up in the middle of the room like, what we gonna do? We doing all this talking, we sitting in this room talking, and like you said, how do you get time if you so active? Where do you get time to show up to even criticize or even know? How do you find out about us inactive? I am not a real armchair revolutionary. I am a full-on revolutionist. But one thing I do not support and I do not embrace is martyrdom. I'm also extremely secular. I'm secular AF. I don't appreciate, embrace, nor do I intend to engage in martyrdom. So if the revolutionary action does not have a rational, sensible basis, if there is no critique involved, if there's no clearly articulated ideological position, if you're just acting without the mental component, the ideological, the social and scholarly component, then you just you're throwing a tantrum. I call those political tantrums. You know, you waving your arms, you kicking your legs, and online now I see even worse, more tragic. People online waving guns. And let me say one more thing. All them cats like Balu Gong and all these cats that was online with the guns, that was active in the streets, many of them are facing serious times. Like Balu Gong is locked up right now, and he's trying to get money for his legal fees, trying to get money just so he can eat and sustain himself in jail. And he got active for y'all. And, you know, with you in our comments asking about talking about us being armchair revolutionaries, there's people you can support that got busy, that toted guns, shotguns, that we got people in exiles, we got political prisoners. So if you really want to get behind somebody who did what you believe should be done and did things the way you should believe to do them, if you're not doing them yourself, there's so many people you could truly support in that.
You know, one of the things that so I had a brief conversation with Charlemagne about this. Like he, in his idea, if you want it, don't criticize me. Take it to the white people. Like, you know, take the guns to the white people. I'm like, that's not how it works. But I remember one time this brother, he said, I think he was on social media. He was like, well, and it's similar to the picture that I saw send y'all to the elder who's saying it's over and you might as well just buy his books. But he was saying that we need to stop talking all this shit and just focus on our families, focus on ourselves, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, are you focusing on your family? And how you have time to be on social media telling everybody else it's over and let's quit when you should just be focused on your damn family? But I think the idea of just coming here to argue, or coming here to, sometimes I actually don't even know what they're laying out in the argument. That's why I actually say, okay, well, just come on and have a conversation, because some of these people you will never see in any community that you're in. So I'd rather you just come on the screen so you can publicly say what you need to say and let's deal with it there, since we already in this space, right? So
yeah, I'm not focusing on.
They're too real for that, though. That would be too armchair for that.
I can't focus. I was focused on my family. Then my son quit the track team and joined the Dungeons and Dragon Club. So that's it. I'm done with family. I'd rather come hang with y'all now, because you know, I'd rather come hang out with you, Geechee and Jared, because you know what I'm gonna do. Dungeons and Dragons. I bought him some dice, some mystical dice, and I'm out. I'm done. I'm refocusing.
So that
That's funny.
So that black meaning black
it's
don't
not.
feel,
It's hurtful.
You said it's his question. I think this is crazy. You said the questions that always get unanswered. So make sure we don't ignore the question.
Okay, so this is the other thing that I find. I don't know if this is specific to Black meaning African, but I find that frustrating in when I peruse some of the comments in between shows, is that, or even live, is that, again, I keep wanting to remind people, the one time or the two times you've seen us is not all. Again, you have not voiced us or brought us into existence with that like when you pass by and look at a video and don't like what you see, there's more. So like this question, for instance, here, these questions have been answered variously throughout the platform on BPM over just the last 2 years, never mind all the other work all of us have been doing. But my short answer to this is, in terms of what is the ultimate goal or end game for Black revolutionaries in the US, and then I think there's a part two to this question. Do you have that part two? If revolutions overturn societies and replace them with something else, what are you looking to replace in the US? So this is part of what I think is the ongoing conversation that we're having here. And there are variations to those responses and various pathways that people on this platform advocate taking. I sometimes have a hard time envisioning what that final version would look like. And I just keep advocating for some basic principles, more redistribution, adjustments to how we engage one another and how we engage the planet, what we define as wealth, all of that. And then those solutions will come, the specifics will come. Other than engaging in just some thought experiment fantasy that is sometimes I think helpful. But and then just lastly, like it doesn't specifically answer these questions, but I'm similar to what George Jackson has said, that in non-revolutionary moments, the job of revolutionaries is to make room for revolution to occur. And on some level, I do think intellectually, at least, this platform is attempting to do that, to open up conversations and say, let's move beyond some of the standard or imposed goalposts and see what we can figure out. But just lastly, in terms of how that plays into this thing with criticism, is that if we can't be critical of what are clearly barriers to whatever that progressed, advanced, newly visioned world are, like capital, white supremacy, so on and so forth, then I don't know what. I feel like then what is baked into questions like that are assumptions that are based in today's world, and I don't want that to be part of where we're headed.
So sometimes I don't know if the question is like curious, I don't know, and I need to answer, or sometimes the questions are, I have an answer, I want to hear your answer. But by all means, the link is in the chat. So if there's a lot of questions, just come in and just lay it out live so we can build around there. But
there's the last question, right? And this one we've definitely answered. But sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I'm saying though, like that's like the views, the political education, the dialogue, whatever. Like if there's something that you're like, okay, y'all are totally getting this wrong, you need to be doing this, then like I said, come lay the shit out so we could do something. Because I would assume we all here for similar or the same reasons, right? Especially if people are.
I wouldn't assume that. I don't assume that anymore.
Well, I mean, if people showing up and they're participating, then I mean, I would assume that they would have a way to lay out some of their criticisms while they telling other people stop criticizing.
Could I? Let me show you an example of my favorite. This is one of my favorites right here from the. Oh no, that's not the one. I'll come back to that. Oh wait, did I get rid of it? Oh, I got rid of it. My bad. The one it called us. It said we were being childish as grown men hating on another grown man, and I was like, but you're in our comment hating on us. So what? So like, what is? Anyway, I just thought that was funny, but and that's why I think I'm not sure we all are on the same page in terms of who either is on the platform or in the audience of the platform as to why we're all here. And I don't mean that as a negative either. I'm just saying I don't necessarily take for granted that we're all clearly on that same page. But
I think so.
Ahead.
Also, like one of the things that me and Manny was talking about, how like people have followers who just gonna follow them through whatever. Like, no matter what they say, they're gonna follow them. It could be similar to like Tariq Nasheed, like but Hidden Colors thing. And but I've also been seeing that I think followers and people some of them are sophisticated enough to kind of see holes, right? So, for instance, if they're saying that we are critiquing Tariq and we should be tearing other black people down, like Tariq has his critiques against black folks. Same thing with Boyson or whatever. But for some reason,
and they get into like a whole bunch of name calling too. So it's like, which I don't feel like we were doing. I mean, it's a little bit of jokes here and there, but they get.
Technically, that's what they're accusing us of. But that's what we're being accused of right now, though. So one of the challenges here also,
people.
Yeah.
I mean, I would need something more specific than that, because that was in part, so like now, and maybe there's a slight pivot we can make here, because some of the criticism we were getting was about the exchange between me and Diallo. And like, so wait, loaded questions are not a gotcha as much as one thinks it is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like Jupiter Hammond's comments and a couple of others were saying that and they weren't specifically talking about, well, actually that's part of the issue that I was having. They weren't specific at all, but they were saying that we were creating in general here at BPM, they were concerned that we were creating too much of a hostile environment here on BPM. And they did reference the visit, the brother from Hella Black when he was here, and Nah Dove and Malefi Asante were mentioned in Jupiter Hammond's comments, and a couple other people. And then then go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't remember. I don't really remember the problem with Nah Dove and Malefi Asante.
Well, that's my response included. What I'm saying is.
Hey,
go ahead. All right, well, go ahead.
Let me share my experience, because I went to Kamau Franklin to complain about the hostile work environment at BPM, and he referred me to the HR office. And the HR office is a rusty garden shed with Kalungi in there, sharpening axes. So I just slowly backed out of the room and decided we just gonna have to deal with this ourselves.
Oh, wow.
So as far as the hostile BP, we'll be all right. We got the infrastructure in place.
That's good to know. Thank you for
complaints. To between sharpening axes in the rusty garden shed, Kalonji will field all HR complaints about the work environment.
That's how it gets handled. That's exactly right.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Yes. But be prepared before and now you got to get like a 4-hour lecture on food sovereignty before you get to the actual issue.
And then you might have to box it out.
And then and then
slap boxing is their solution.
Oh man.
Go ahead.
No, just
go ahead,
just that.
We can't do too much. We can't do too much joking, Diallo. So let's get serious. Go ahead, Jared. I'm sorry.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't.
We'll get.
And then this past week with the exchange between Coco and William Anderson, that generated some similar responses. And in publicly, I haven't, in general, my issue is that I think by and large, people have been encouraged and conditioned out of being able to witness even principled disagreement as people have been conditioned to see even principled disagreement as hostility and as beef. And then it's very easily, I think, even unconsciously interpolated or confused with, mixed up with the some of the general backs and forth we see on YouTube or World Star or rap battles or whatever else and stuff, real reality shows or whatever and stuff like that. Yeah, I did too, but I'm just talking about in terms, Troy, of a lot of the response. I mean, and there was a good amount relative to what we get on the platform. There was a good amount of response to all of these things, including our last show here last week. And so in general, I think that's the problem, that we're not used to seeing principled exchange, and then by and large, people and publicly facing people don't want to. They refuse to publicly engage, particularly in principled ways where it's not looking to score points and put on a show. So that's one issue that I think. Go ahead.
And it's this thing I call empty unity, because I think again, if you ask about unity in any Black space, 99% of Black people will say we need unity and that they want unity and they embrace Black unity. But because unity has been such diluted and bastardized concept, and I don't think understand what unity truly is, now this empty unity, which is being polite and deferential, is seen as being unified. When you have people who hate each other's guts and have no ability to coordinate, pool resources, or even come up with a common goal, or like the brother was asking about, even a vision for the future, but because they speak nice and they get along on the surface, that's surface unity. But unity, when I start to talk about, well, is there operational unity? Is there institutional unity? Is there structured, real, not the flowery, polite greetings and discourse, but actual grounded principles that we have to adhere to? And do we have means of rewarding those who hold to the unity and sanctioning those who violate the unity? So we have this empty unity, which when unity is supposed to strengthen and advance you, now this unity stagnates us because you can't call anybody out, or people have such a crippling fear of being seen publicly disagreeing with each other, or being seen as an individual, as being seen as disagreeable. They're so crippled. So the very thing that was supposed to strengthen you, bring you together and advance you, begins to fragment you and stagnate you. So I say, you know, the days of politeness, you being able to stand up and make a claim about what you are and who you are and what you're going to do and what you ain't going to do, I think those days are over. Everything is up for dissection. Everything, your ideology, your belief system, what you advocate for, everything is up for criticism and dissection. And if you can't withstand the dissection, if you're found wanting, then I think it should be diminished or shunned. You know, I'm sick of all these sacred cows. And being in Chicago, a city with a very long, deep history of activism and so many fiefdoms, so many Black ideological and organizational fiefdoms all over this city. People have been extracting social and monetary capital from the Black masses and giving nothing back. But you can't talk about them because they've been here. You just got here. They've been here, been parasitic over the Black community for half a century, parasites. And I'm like, well, this guy, this sacred cow, needs to be, you know, put out to pasture. And I get a lot of pushback. People say I'm anti-unity. No, the things I'm doing, unity that can withstand critique, questioning, criticism, is a valid, strong unity. Unity that is that rest and that can only stand if people are nice, polite, and willing to look the other way on bullshit. That's not unity. Or at best, it's empty unity, but that's just being polite. That's not being unified.
So how about this, Diallo? So you have this this challenge by a Buddhist to come on here and debate you about some of the stuff you said about Buddhism, but also you know how you don't hold your tongue when the terms for Christianity and other murder cults that you call it.
Yeah.
So the question is, one, because people are saying like you're too brash, you're too harsh, you interrupt. Could we speak to the idea of, you know, dialoguing and struggling around ideas, and maybe how you might show up organizing an actual community around people who are maybe Christian? The majority of the people that you see probably going to be Christian if you're trying to do any work in communities, any country that you're in, really. So maybe talk about the idea of struggling with ideas when people come in to defend themselves, but also how you might show up in organizing spaces and community.
Well, that's easy. It's got to be secular. That's all. When I organize and work, I only engage in secular work. I don't work towards supernatural or spiritual or religious goals, and I don't follow supernatural or spiritual dogmas and rules. And so I can work with anybody that has any type of delusional religious or as I call spirituality, religion for lazy people. I find that most people, Black folks, figure out, you know, you got a lot of Black people that work for various government and private institutions, and they don't come in there slapping Bibles on the boardroom table at Coca-Cola, you know. And so if you can show the same amount of respect for Black work in the Black community that you show for your corporate job or your government job, then we'll be all right. We'll be all right. That's all I got to say. If you and Black people been doing that for a long time. We know what's right and how to compartmentalize shit. So I have never once kicked in a tabernacle door, and I've never kicked in the door of a temple. I never busted in a mosque and stopped them brothers from bumping their heads on the floor. I have never went into any religious, holy, sacred space to disrupt what they were doing. And I will not allow or invite any type of religious delusions to into my space. So I follow the Malcolm X laid it out for us over half a century ago. Leave your religion at home. Keep it in the closet. And if Malcolm, who went from a cult leader to a revolutionary Pan-Africanist, if he could do it, I know the rest of y'all can do it. Come on, I believe in y'all. Leave your religion at home. Leave it in the closet when it's time to do work in the community.
So I agree that E. Thomas has a point that approach, Diallo, presents a challenge when trying to organize a bulk of African and world majority people.
No, it doesn't.
I think, well, as I said, I think they have a point when they raise that, and that was certainly Kwame Ture's argument back in the day that he studied religion just so he could organize his people. But as I was going to say, I also think that Diallo, please give me a second, because I'm about to try to. I maybe ended up agreeing with you but I think, with all respect to Ture and others who feel that way, I'm reaching the point personally with my frustration with religion and its impact. I'm beginning to feel like I'm entering a new phase where my evolving argument is that without being specific to the that just made me lose my train of thought. Hold on a second. So no. Anyway, that I'm walking. I feel like I'm moving slowly into this spot. But that approach is inhibiting our ability to move past and raise important criticisms of how religion interacts with us. And so I don't see enough of an evolution beyond. Or I haven't, in my experience, seen enough of sort of an evolving beyond some of these harmful concepts as I feel that they are. So I do think that there are, to Ricky's comment, and this is something, and I'll bring up here that was also said a lot in response to last week's show. This point here, I think, encapsulates a lot of it. Bro Diallo, I respect you and appreciate your articulations on our reality. However, you are out of line with your jabs at Bro Dr. Ball. If you value this platform and your relationship with Bro Dr. Ball, then you should keep that in check respectfully. So just using that example as a microcosm, I do think that there is a flaw in that approach of saying, with that level of hostility and antagonism, and even when I used to hear Dr. Clark speak about his views on religion, it was a struggle for me to reconcile what I agreed with him in that comment about male chauvinist murder cults and the value of that labeling and sort of throughway to talking with African people you ultimately want to organize. So I struggle with that. So the same thing here. Like, I'm all for principled disagreement and debate. But I do feel like, Diallo, there are a couple times where you get a little bit with me out of pocket. And I feel like just making this the microcosm of the broader argument, it inhibits the value of your argument, which I do find to be existent. But when I'm constant, not constant, that's not correct. In the moments where I feel like it's becoming, this isn't about Jared and his politics. This is about Jared as a man. I start to become what I think happens, broadly speaking. We recoil and we become defensive, and then it becomes a different form of interaction. One I am not interested in bringing to this platform. I don't like my energy when I feel that way, and I don't like bringing that to other Black people in these spaces or any space. And so I just feel like that's what. So I think somewhere in there's some value to, like, how do we lay out the accuracy of our argument when dealing with individuals that theoretically or philosophically we may want to build with.
Well, also real quick before you go, Diallo. So one of the things that I was paying attention to, like I watched when Diallo and Skip Kuhn had a conversation about Bootsy, right? And Skip was trying to claim that Bootsy had all of the control and power that he want. He could move how he want to move. And he's unreproachable, something like that. I don't remember the words. And then Diallo started arguing back, like, no, he's control. He got right-wing talking points. And it actually reminded me of the argument that y'all had about power, right? And somebody even in the comments says, this is where this power Diallo is speaking about comes from conflict between dialectically Black people do not own the means to production or the rights of the means to production. And Dr. Ball really should emphasize the importance of dialectic materialism, because without it, we will continue to miss the forest from the trees. Like, I actually hear both of those conversations and almost see Diallo on both sides of the conversations. Maybe he's doing what he says. I mean, he's doing what Jarrett was talking about when he's talking to Skip, but then when he's talking to Jarrett, he's kind of doing a different thing. So, to me, both of those conversations was kind of like example of like sometimes Diallo could be arguing a point that the other person agree with, but then when he come at him, it don't sound like he agreeing with him. It sounds like there's an argument, or maybe, you know, personally, Jarrett might feel attacked or who whatever. But I really think sometimes the message get convoluted in the moment. But I'm just a listener, so I don't know. But go ahead, Diallo.
Well, I just have to say, I mean, I think Dr. Ball struggles with nuance and fails to see the nuance. I'm just playing. Let me stop. I don't want to start. I don't want to be starting. Let me because we've covered quite a bit. Let me first speak to that. 80. This is an absurdist comment. This is an absolutely structurally and factually inaccurate comment, and let me tell you why. The only way to organize the black masses is through secularism, because religion is so atomized. Because if I say, well, I can't shun religion, I'm going to have me a Baptist organization, then you've lost the Pentecostals, you've lost the evangelicals, you've lost the Southern Baptists because they don't fuck with the National Baptists. If I'm gonna have me in Islam, you notice when the cult leader Farrakhan went to Washington, he never said, you go look at the literature. You look at the literature from the Million Man marches. Can't wear flip-flops anymore. I used to, if you find, listen, I've given all my flip-flops to my sons. I don't wear them.
Hey, I don't know. Maybe AI is taking over our podcast, and every time we say shit, AI twists it, and then the audience hears some other shit.
Yeah,
maybe
I think that is happening.
But back to my point, when you have the biggest movements in amongst African people anywhere in the world, they have been secular. From Garvey, who was a Christian. The first chapter in his book is like, I am a Christian. He is a Christian. But the Find Me, where the UNIA was Christian. When Farrakhan, man, had his Million Man marches, he's had half a dozen marches in Washington. Wasn't no Star and Crescent Moon. Wasn't no Islamic march. When he said a Million Man march, not a million Muslim march. If he had a million Muslim march, he wouldn't have got a million black men to show up. He said a Million Black Man march. So the only way to bring our people together, because the moment you allow any little funky religion delusion to seep into your shit and you claim it, I've been to meetings of black people and the libations get poured, and they pour libations to Malcolm X. They pour libations to Jesus. Now, I don't agree with that, but you know, you bet. So, right, and Colin Powell. So I would argue that the only way to get any type of mass organization or any way to resonate or engage the masses of black people is through being secular. Because the moment you say, okay, we're going to take the crescent moon, we're going to take the wheel, we're going to take all these, any religious symbol, and you put it on your shit, you about to alienate every other black person that has some other challenge delusions. Even if you say, well, I want all the black Christians, because most black people around here are Christians. I came up in Covenant Memorial Baptist Church, a church founded by my great uncle, my grandmother's baby brother, right? Nah, I can't, because if I wrestle Farrakhan, how am I gonna get all that axle grease hair dye he wear off of my, ain't nobody got time for that. He slipped right out. Ever seen a man 90 years old with jet black hair? Hey, I ain't even 50 yet, and I got more gray than Farrakhan. Get out of here. Anyway, let me finish.
Wait. We gotta interrupt you. I think Baba Balagoon just gave us our clickbait title for the post. So that's gonna be our clickbait.
Don't say that. Man, listen, to get from my house to the Whole Foods, I got to pass Farrakhan's mansion. Y'all don't be talking like that. I got to live here.
Hey, E. Thomas, my bad. I think you got to go revisit your Clark, my man. Or
right.
I'm sorry.
So
please revisit
all that
Clark.
to say, just to beat down the fact, black people don't be afraid to organize secular and demand people be secular. I have worked in a room with Black Hebrew Israelites, NOI members, atheist seculars, and some Badu hippie sage incense burning head in the clouds spiritualists, and we all been in the room working towards the same goal. And the only reason you can get those folks and many others in the room working towards the same goal is because the mission and the organization was secular. And then everybody, if somebody want to bump their head on the floor towards the east before we get to work, if somebody want to bang a gong or do a chant or some guttural chant, it didn't matter because the mission and the formation was secular. So this is a myth. Go and look at all of the Black mass movements that any of us respect. They have all been secular. You alienate people when you embrace a religion within the organization. And like I said, I don't kick in doors and I don't go bother people when they doing their spookism. I don't disrupt spookism, but I don't allow spookism to disrupt what I'm trying to do either. And then
So I mean, we've been in the comments for almost an hour. We need to get out of the comments and get into some gangster shit soon. So
yeah, we do. I'm too much in the
with.
comments. I did. Well, the one I brought up as an example, I think, even our dear Shirley missed the point. It wasn't to say that I was saying Diallo was now going at me. I was bringing that up as a point that many of the comments that I got that I saw and heard about in response, not just to our show last week, but as I said a few minutes ago, in regards to the Coco William Anderson exchange or all these other exchanges, that is this issue of hostility. So again, I don't feel like, so sometimes I do feel, and I'm not going to say this about Shirley because I know Shirley is a consistent and contributor here, but this is sort of my problem. And Geechee, you mentioned it earlier. Like, I don't feel like, I'll just speak for me. I often do not feel like people give me enough attention beyond the criticism that they're focused on in that moment to understand where it's coming from or to even hear what it's being said. So I wasn't pulling that comment up to say that Diallo was currently going at me or anything like that, but it was to say it was reflective of that broader concern that several people have brought to me and to the channel, saying that there is, beyond disagreement, an unhealthy, dare I say, toxicity in some of these exchanges. And what I was trying to do was to collapse some of these threads very quickly to say, whether it's an approach to how we organize the African world, or whether it's how we exchange here on the platform or elsewhere, I do think I feel more critical of you, Diallo, not of your analysis, but of that approach than I do of, so in other words, it's less the content in this case than it is the approach if the goal is to build. That same time, I'm contradicting myself, I think, because in response to what has been said about, for instance, in the example about Dove and Asante or Coco and Anderson, I never felt that there was an undue hostility, and there was a focus on the politics that was being in the argument that was being maybe even willfully ignored because of the style or the form of the presentation of that argument. So in other words,
but that's the problem, though, because you got cats talking about Coco was disrespectful, mean mugging, coming hard. Like, I'm like,
no, and I actually, as I said to several people, I thought people, see, this is always, for me personally, this is always an issue because I'm more demonstrative. I'm usually more demonstrative, and that is, and people want to, that becomes the focus. And I'm saying, listen, focus on the content. So like, usually, and this is where that, in terms of the point about Diallo, I felt a slight difference that Coco was focused specifically on a criticism of Anderson's work. Variously or varyingly or whatever, I felt last week, Diallo, you were getting a little bit at me about me as a man or a person. There were a couple moments, and that's what I thought was reflective in even that one comment. And there were others that I just showed there. And what I'm saying is, what I'm trying to do is just, I don't know, thread a needle here to say, while I was critical, Diallo, of your performativeness last week, it was because I thought it was taking away from the focus on the argument, whereas the focus on Coco's performativeness, relatively speaking, was meant to deny the centrality of her argument. I don't know if I'm making this clear enough, but I hope people are picking up the distinctions here that I'm making. But so anyway, so what I'm really just trying to say is that I do think there needs to be ways for us to engage in the way I thought we had with Dove and Asante and Coco had with Anderson, that don't go into where I think we did go a little bit too. I felt it last week a little bit too. Like I feel like, man, he's and it could be just my defense, but I'm just saying I felt that, and I feel like that is ineffective in terms of the value, which I do find there is in your Diallo's argument. So the last piece I just want to say about that is to this performativeness piece. As I said on a number of occasions in response to Coco and Anderson's back and forth, Anderson, in his calmness and apparent calmness and restrained demeanor, I thought was, even beginning before Coco got there, when it was just the two of us, was more hostile than Coco ultimately was in her argument, despite the energy, or what he was saying was passion. In other words, don't get it twisted. When someone is being calm and apparently demure, don't get it twisted that is not itself hostile and deserving of some sort of response that, you know, it may get. Anyway, let me stop there. Go ahead.
Yo, in the future, I don't know how to say this, whatever his name is, but in the future, this person probably need to come on. Vesuvius,
Mount Vesuvius, the wiped out the Italian, you know, remember, was it Pompeii? Yeah. But
right? That person had a pretty in their mind, a level of critique against Diallo, but they kept using a bunch of women and type women. Pretty much Diallo is like a woman, and every negative comment that he made about Diallo was like women. So maybe that person is dealing with some shit.
I know centricity. I'm sorry. I don't
know who they are, and maybe they're rewatching, but
it's like gynocentricity.
Sometimes a lot of shit get lost in the comments, and I don't know if he or she or what will say exactly how they said in the chats on live, but I'm not sure. But in the future, maybe that person should come on and lay out what they say too. But it's time to move on, fellas.
One last thing, just for me, I don't. No, that's it. Let's move on. We can just leave.
I have to say one thing in my defense about last week. I was in Brooklyn, son. I wasn't. Yo, word is bond. I was off Flatbush and Fulton. So how else was I supposed to come?
It'll do it to you. I hear you.
BIG murals all around me, son, you know, kicking rats off the sidewalk. What do you want from me? So, you know, I could always find something to blame my actions on. Yo, I wasn't around my plants. I didn't have my
I need my plants.
Right.
You had some Tim's. You had some Tim's, some 40 ounces, some backwoods.
I had on jeans that were 8 sizes too big. I had on a leather bomber jacket, and it was 80 degrees outside. You know what I'm saying?
You had the backwoods rolling up.
I'm saying 40. I went and found a 40 ounce in the trash and drank what was left in.
But there's been too much of an overcorrection. The baggy jeans to the skinny jeans with the built-in sag in them. I'm totally like we've overcorrected.
So I didn't pack enough cardigans. It was just a hard trip for me. So maybe I did lash out a little more than I normally do. But like that Brooklyn trip was not easy.
Brooklyn will get you. Come out still recovering.
Here she go with that Bronx slander. Here she go with the Bronx slander.
Brooklyn, son.
No, he said it right.
Yeah, enough respect to Boogie Down. Enough respect. You know, I go all boroughs because I'm not a native, so I can rock with all boroughs. I don't have to show loyalty except for Queens and Staten Island. But other than that,
all right,
I love New York.
Where we headed to? We headed to the EYL shit, or we going to the?
It's all good. Whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. I did want us to talk about how you all going to get to these conferences. I really I'm borderline serious that I think we need to have.
I'm halfway serious too.
So I don't know if we, if we want to, what do we need to do? Are you going to seriously like look up the dates and confirm schedules, and then we'll come back here in a week or so and put in a pitch to get you a flight and a hotel room?
So I looked at the stuff they got going on. Obviously, in October is when they're in Chicago, which we suppose, like my birthday, I think it's your birthday, and we can go chill with Diallo.
I'm actually cool with that.
That's far out, and then I think before that they have the Invest Fest coming up again, and then I think they got London in July. So those are the only things that I even see happening that we can even be on the waiting list for. But we also would have to have a plan, because just going in the audience, it's not like you're gonna be able to engage much people, and there's gonna be. I thought Hostility on this damn live was something.
So what would the plan be? I mean, because in all seriousness, like when I do go beyond just my childhood, my childish pettiness, I would like, in all seriousness, what could we expect from that?
I mean, if there's a panel, or there's times where it's engaging the crowd, that's one thing. I think in dropping some channel and organizational content out there, and I guess engaging the people in the audience. I mean, that logically, that's the only thing I could see.
That's what I would be more interested in. I would be interested in engaging with the audience going in, maybe taping some interviews and discussions about people about going in versus when they come out, and engaging. I'd be more interested in how it impacts and resonates with the community more so than what's being said on stage, because we already.
You gonna catch him, Diallo, like Malcolm when they coming out of church on Sunday? We still here. That poverty's still here. You heard all that good sermon.
I'm not that hard. I went down to Savior's Day, and the Black Hebrew Israelites were posted up outside. I just went to spectate. I'm a spectator, because I'm a hater spectator,
man. Why
I didn't say nothing. I just and it's
Diallo at the zoo feeding the tigers and
I just went
the bears. And
I didn't know the Hebrew Israelites were going to be there, and I like going where the nation to be, because it don't be no litter on the ground, it don't be no gum on the sidewalk. The area is so clean and pristine, and it's such calm environment. I like whenever the nation's like out somewhere, I go and sit on a bench and relax and absorb all that, cocoa butter and righteousness. I see the value in things I oppose.
So one of the things that will yield us some depressing data, we'll be asking people in the audience, like, how do you even describe or define revolutionary? And do you think this was a revolutionary event, and why? Because during the Our Story portion of Earn Your Leisure's webpage, which they did have a motivational speaker on their platform, I think the other day, was talking about how important it is to tell your story. But It says Earn Your Leisure is a revolutionary media platform which gives rise to emerging and established content creators from the world of business, finance, and entrepreneurship, whose perspective, expertise, and in-depth insights have been undervalued and overlooked. At its core, Earn Your Leisure's ultimate purpose is to build as we climb as a community, highlighting collaboration over competition. So it sounds like they want socialism over capitalism, communism over capitalism. That's what they're saying, collaboration over competition. So I would have a couple of questions to kind of find out where we at with how they hitting the mark.
Revolutionize your finances, my brother.
Wow, it is a menagerie of rhetorics. God, pick a team, pick a side. God damn.
So yeah, I think that would be a good question. What does revolution look like? I would even be interested, remember when what was it, like Jay Leno and them used to go out and ask people on the street like basic history questions, like like who was the second president or something, and just get all, just be like almost, I don't mean even just to, maybe that's too demeaning, but just be like, well, what is capitalism? What is revolution? how do you feel having come out of all of these presentations? Can you bullet point for us what you learned today? That I think that would be fascinating. And I wonder if any of it would be anything more specific than what you would get hearing something from someone coming out of a religious institution. In other words, even the way I talked about a couple of weeks ago, when we walked out of church, I felt great. I felt great all week. I felt good all week. I loved it.
You must have had a good pastor, because my shit wear off on Tuesday.
Maybe just because I'm too much of a rookie, like or I'm too what is it? I don't get high enough, so any dose will last. You know what I mean? Like but if you said to me, well, Jared, Monday morning, Jared, or even Sunday afternoon, Jared, what did you learn today? It would have been a whole bunch of, it just felt good. I don't know, the vibe, it'd been like, so I wonder if we get people coming out of these things, are they going to have like, that would be dope. That would be very interesting.
Hey, one of the brothers said you should do your own documentary. So, I mean, that would be great.
And that way, that checks our Tariq box.
Actually, I never even thought about that. I don't think I've ever thought
our
about
Tariq checklist. Because once we did everything, all the dumb shit he's done, then we get to criticize him. But until we do everything he did, we can't say nothing.
That's interesting. Maybe I should do that.
I have a bit of a tie-in with I guess the comments section. So I was going through Earn Your Leisure Drunk, and I was reading this again. Dr. Amos.
Let me hold on. Put that back up there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Amos, Psychology of Self-Hatred and Self-Defeat. And he talks about Horatio Alger's myth. And again, we just talk about the critiques of Christians, like 80%, 90% of the people in America are going to be Christians. And then we have to come to the terms with that 90% of the people are going to believe in this myth that, one day you're going to make it big. One day you're going to be the rich person.
Right.
And in this spot, he talks about how people saying, like, I don't want people to ask me for money when I make it. So we need to keep capitalism and the wealthy in place because one day we're going to be the wealthy. So knowing that most of our audience believes that and feels that might be why they holding on to Tariq Nasheed coming from a pimp to supposedly looking like he made it. Like your boy said, Bootsy being self-made and from rich to poor. Like, if most people believe that myth, then the way in which we deliver and critique on this platform, are we cutting ourselves short, reaching them? One. Two, will that make our audience stay at the numbers that is at, and only in the chats it will be people who are already in the same kind of space? So will that stop us from growing if we don't have a way to, I don't know.
First of all, if we followed the YouTube algorithm, all we would do on this show and elsewhere would be me and Diallo would argue, and we would do clips about Tariq. The algorithm tells us that's what you do.
And these females out here.
Maybe
these females.
I'm just talking about what we have. I'm just talking about when I look at the YouTube studio numbers. Like we haven't done an anti-woman thing or whatever.
That's where the money resides.
I'm just saying we have the data. We do have the Jared Diallo argument data. We have the Tariq video clip data, and that data is very clear. BPM numbers go up, comments go up. The placement goes up. So if the goal is to just grow as a channel minus any concern of substance, that's what we would do. We would just me and Diallo could just straw argument each other all day, and we don't have to pick a topic and just yell at each other, and then throw some references to Tariq in there, and we will be good. We would all probably get rich.
But then again,
we'd be invited to EYL's
right.
But back to Amos's point. So
we don't want to eat off Dr. Umar's plate like that though.
But to his point, and I'm sorry, I did want to come to that point. I'm sorry, Geechee, because I was actually going to say that even in the Buying Power book, I make reference to scholarship that talks about the psychology of hearing analyses that don't work for you. So there's a long, like what he's saying, what Wilson said, what others have, there's a lot of people have made that point for a long time. And part of why they promote the Black capitalist mythology is to create just that. You don't want people feeling, Steve Coakley's version used to be hope is dope. And his point was get rid of hope. So then you become revolutionary. It doesn't mean you quit and become apathetic. It means that it's the revolutionary suicide version for Coakley. And that's sort of what I'm trying to get at. Like, we got to get over it. If you realize there is no advance here for anyone other than the 3 people that constantly get put on YouTube, then you will move beyond it. But so yeah, it absolutely is done on purpose. So
but that's the point I was going to say. Like, so he was closing, and when he closed, he literally was kind of like talking about Barack Obama and Jesse Jackson before they even came. Mm-hmm. But when he was saying like, give them hope, give the people hope, don't give them food, don't give them money, housing, just give them hope. It's because they know when people ultimately give up hope, they then get revolutionary. They then start destroying things and changing things. So even the concept of hope, like some of these platforms are giving hope within the system, right? Because cats can really critique the hell out of Candace Owens, but not know Tariq and Candace come to the same damn conclusion, right? So the hope that we might be shedding is that we can get organized and destroy.
Listen to me. Let me give one more real quick, Diallo. Sorry about that. Real quick, because I mentioned the Navy earlier. When we were in Desert Storm and they were telling us, we don't know when you're coming home, when there was no end in sight, the mental condition of most of us, you could see it and feel it, started to deteriorate almost immediately. Hostility, violence went up, work quality went down, everybody. So the hope was delivered in the form of, the policy was, if you're out at sea for 45 days in a row with no port within the next week, everybody gets 2 beers. They bring you up to the flight deck in the middle of the ocean. It's kind of it's a surreal thing. And they bring crates of beer. Everybody gets tickets. You get 2 beers. And then for some of us, you make arrangements to get other people's tickets, and you end up with a 6-pack, 8 beers. And if you haven't had a drink in a long time, it becomes a very interesting, a good time for you. But my point in all that is that the beer was the hope. The beer was the Obamas and the Jessies. We're not giving, to your point, we're not giving you a solution. You're not going home. There's no end in sight. But to keep you from fully deteriorating and becoming a problem for us, which would ultimately sink all of us, which should be the goal, probably. They say, here's a couple beers. Now go back out there and enjoy yourself. So that was what I was thinking as you were talking. So here we get a couple beers tonight with a game, with a LeBron, a ball chasers, Diallo called. We're gonna get a movie gonna come out. The promise of a president, the promise of you earning your leisure. Chill. You don't have to have a rebellion.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I wanted to say to the earlier point about hopelessness and people's ideas and tearing. As revolution, there's 2 things you have to be constantly doing as a revolutionary, and that's confront and deconstruct. Confront and deconstruct. Confront and deconstruct. And that's systems and ideas. If you're not challenging the pervasive ideas amongst your people, we gonna get rich, we can get paid, this empty unity, we got to be unified, we can't be out here fighting each other, or this nonsense about airing dirty laundry, respecting age-old delusions or God. And you have to confront and deconstruct. If you're not willing to do that, then all the other shit that comes with revolutionary organizing and all of the backlash and all, you're not ready for a revolution. And you have to do that personally with the things that you've rested comfortably on. Things that I believe this, or this has worked in my life. And if you have to be in a constant cycle of confronting and deconstructing, or you're not revolutionary, even if you're taking up arms against the state, more likely than not, even if you succeed in your arms against the state, you're going to implement a system that's just as regressive. I mean, look at I was just talking earlier this week about the IRA, and they fought the British for 800 years to get the British out of Ireland. They got the British out, and what did they do? Created a British system. And now it's Irish imposing the same religious and hierarchical oppression on other Irish people that the British put on them. It's a reactionary right wing. So even if you are against existing systems of oppression, if you don't want to create a brand new system of oppression, you have to be in a constant state of confronting and deconstructing. And it kind of disillusions me. It makes me feel bad when people see these confrontations, this deconstruction, this challenging, this questioning, this also very necessary mockery and dismissal. When people see that, and we're supposed to be conscious, and that causes us to avert our eyes. That's my problem with religion, because religion is unchanging, unchallenged. You can't question. Anything you can't question is not worthy of your engagement. Anything you can't challenge, anything you can't mock and laugh at is not worthy of your engagement. It's not serious.
Diallo, you sound like you was put out. Diallo sound like he got put out a couple Bible studies too.
Oh man, you don't want. I got nah. It was worse than that. I was in children's Bible study at a Covenant Missionary Baptist Church, and they one Sunday I came and they was like, brother, we want you to go to the adult, because the children's classes had the boys and the girls, and the adult classes were broken up for men and women. So they were like, you're going to go to the adult men's class next Sunday for Bible school. And I was like, hell yeah, they realized my brilliance and my dedication to my Lord and Savior. And I walked into the men's classes and they were like, sit your ass down in this corner. Don't you say another goddamn word. And I thought because I was asking so many questions and challenging, I would been leveled up. I've been skipped ahead to the end. And they just put me there because the men were going to beat the shit out of me, gang up and beat the hell out of me if I kept messing with the scam. So yeah, that actually literally happened to me. And I'll name names. Deacon Rocker and all y'all. Yeah, come at me now, bruh. I'm playing. Shout out to
I
Deacon
like this
Rocker.
question. Do you have hope that there will ever be a real revolution? Personally, I do not have hope. I don't want hope. I am hopeless. But I think that either there will be one inevitably, or I think that ultimately it doesn't matter. We have to advocate one and work towards one, whether I hope for there to be one or not. And ultimately, I don't want it to be a hope in one. I want it to be a planned, driven effort to create one. But yeah, I don't just hope that it will happen though.
Yeah.
Again, I came up under the cloth of Amos, and my question will be to those people, like Amos, again, I don't know if he ever wrote this down or I collected it from everything that I read in him, but like the 4 responses to imperialism or white hegemony is the homicidal response, suicidal response, assimilationist, or the revolutionary. So if you're asking about hope, do we have hope in a revolution? What else are the options? Kill each other, assimilate into whiteness, or just accept that our fate and just die happy? Like what's the other option?
I like that, but let me amend my point a little bit. Where I feel myself slipping into hopelessness is when I watch things from Earn Your Leisure and all of that. So in other words, I find no hope in those retrograde approaches to the problem. So it's and the other time I'm hopeless is while driving in traffic. I feel like humanity has proven it's lost at that point. So, but other than that, no, yeah, I just think we have to keep working for it, whether we see it as on the horizon or not.
Well, let's give a functional definition of what hope is.
All right.
And hope is a strong desire for an outcome over which you have no agency. Hope is a strong desire for an outcome over which you have no agency. That's why you don't generally in common conversation find people saying, I hope I have dinner tonight. Because they have the means, the resources, and they have the willingness and ability to go out and make sure they secure a meal for themselves. So only in people in starving situation hope for a meal. So I'm not going to destroy someone's hope, but hope is counter-revolutionary. It is anti-revolutionary because it is a strong desire over which you have no agent, over an outcome which you have no agency. You have no ability to impact. So I do hope for things. Like you hope your team wins the Super Bowl because you're not on the field. You're not a coach. You have no impact on how that team, when the draft come up, I see dudes when they come to ball chasing, oh, why they trade this guy? Why they da. So all you can do if you're watching sports is hope your team's owner doesn't move the team out of it. You can hope the coach runs the right plays. You can hope the recruiters recruit the right person and they don't trade or sell the livestock. I mean, the athletes to the wrong team or bring the wrong livestock. I mean, bring the wrong player into your team. That's a hope situation when it comes to sports. But
Diallo,
things that you have the ability to impact or the willingness to engage with, you should not bother with hope.
So my time in studying the Bible and even facilitating and teaching the Bible, there's this phrase of like, pray and wait about it. But I said, pray and go see about it. Right. Or prayer being this idea of affirmations to encourage you to participate in something. Right. So could you not include hope and aspirations, like having an outcome that you want and doing everything that you can, making sure that the outcome come to realization? So, because again, like expectations is a thing, right? And you're doing something and you expect to get an outcome. So, are you saying that hope can't be the same thing as expectations?
Well, hope can, no, expectations can go anywhere. Expectations can be like, I expect my son to do. Expectations is not limited to hope or hopelessness. Expectation can dwell in any space. It's like that joke Dick Gregory used to tell. He said the bill collectors would call his house and say, Mr. Gregory, when can we expect your bill payment? And Dick Gregory said he would respond, I have no control over your expectations. You can expect it whenever you want it, because it's expecting something, again, is just a thing that floats out there. I have many expectations. Some are met, some are not. But you can just come, you can create an expectation right now in your mind. What the fuck? So you can expect on things you have direct control over and things that you will direct. And you can have expectation on things that are completely distant. But hope is a different thing. Because if I came to y'all and I'm like, oh, brothers, I hope I make it here next Friday. Y'all gonna look at me like I'm crazy. Like, are you gonna be here or not? It's up to you. Like, are you okay?
But then again, you can't. That's the outcome. You can't control when you.
Yes, I can.
No. Slow down. You can't control when you're gonna leave this planet, bro.
Okay, I don't hope that I stay on this planet.
What I'm saying is, when you say you hope you be here, which again, this could be semantics, like. What I'm saying is, I don't think you have to shoot down the whole word hope. I think you can reconfigure it or
shoot it down. I just think people misuse it. I said there are places where hope is appropriate. If you're hoping your team goes to the Super Bowl, you're on point. If you hope your child has someone that, like, if Dr. Ballcat on here was like, well, I hope my daughters have someone available to them to protect them and guide them through life. I really hope. We'd be like, what the Dr. Ball, what you talking about? That's you, dog. Get out there and make it happen. So there are things like my favorite video game just got murdered. They just killed my favorite video game. No more updates.
What you know about that community? Derek Grace banking, the banking app game with the guns?
No, Outriders. They just killed. Now I hope they come out with a part 2 in some distant or near future, that they'll come out with a part 2 of my favorite video game. But I ain't about to do shit. I'm not about to contact the developer. I'm not about to sign an online. I'm not about to do shit. But sit on my couch when I got leisure time and be like, damn, they're not coming out with it. So I'll hope for a new version of my favorite video game. I'm going to fight for the liberation of my people. I don't need hope, because that is an outcome that I have a longing for, that I intend to engage fully. So
you know what? Just quickly from that last comment, I think this is what I think we should do. I think this is a great idea. Mm-hmm. I think over the next 3 weeks, we should dedicate at least 1 hour to these shows to collectively interview one of the 3. And we can start with Geechee. Yeah, I think, and I'll go last. I think I'm, if at all, maybe I don't need to go at all. I think my story's been told enough on this platform. But I think Geechee, and then we should take an hour the following week and get Diallo's full story if you haven't laid it out. because there's been a number of people that be asking me about Geechee's story in particular, and then with Diallo's wolf tickets that he be selling to the Nation of Islam every week. I get questions about his background too. So
which listen again, but that's kind of what I was saying earlier from the comments. I will gladly do that. That's why I'm on public platform.
I already got my question.
But this I'm saying this too. One day I would like for people to come out of comments and do the same thing. So we gonna talk about resumes and shit. I'm cool. We can talk about resume all day, but I do want to know what other people are doing too. So when I tell you what I'm doing, where I'm from, what the fuck I've been doing, blah blah blah.
But hold up. I
want to hear that too from other people. That's all I'm saying.
Geechee, I hear you. Maybe I misread the comment. I took the comment as a legit invitation to learn about you. I
agree. I agree.
You bring in a whole different energy.
No. What I'm saying is I agree. Let me finish. I agree. I will, and that's what I want to do. But I'm saying for the other people. Like, for instance, when you click on their profile and they got like nothing going on or whatever, but then I want to know what they're doing too. Like, if we all in the community, all of us should know what the fuck everybody doing. That's what I think. But I don't have a problem with that. Like, we can do that at any point. But I need to know what you're doing too. I need to know what you're doing, and what I'm doing wrong, you can critique. What you're doing wrong, we can critique, and whatever the hell we got going on. That's what I want.
I want to know how you got hold of the last African medallion on planet Earth.
Well, listen, I got a couple of these things.
No,
I got a couple.
Matter of fact, there's another.
It's a brother.
It's a brother
from listen, it's a brother from Charlotte who's bringing us back.
Oh, he bringing it. Oh,
he got every flavor, every kind. I saw him at an event in Baltimore. Like,
I had dozens of them. I had red, gold, and green, red, black, and green. I had ANC embroidered. I don't know where they went.
I keep losing mine. Like my mother came up and see me and said, "Hey, you left this at my house." I was like, "Oh, okay, word."
Right.
I be losing these shits.
Right. Well, I'd like to know that. What's the hookup on the African medallion? Because if they coming back, you know how I like to stay up on the trends.
I got you, man. You can wear it with your Coogee sweater.
So these are more newer remakes.
Yeah, that's an update. No,
that's the update. So I got that. Hold on.
Okay.
I'll be sure.
This is just a quick grab off the break. So this isn't quite the African medallion, but I do have one of the classic.
Okay, yeah, that's an artifact. All right, that's an artifact.
I got that one. So in fact, I'll just go ahead and throw this back on right quick.
Right.
That's an artifact.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. White archaeologists gonna be kicking in y'all doors, discovering y'all got some real artifacts over there. I gotta learn to keep up with my stuff, man.
Yeah, man. You gotta have some
old school shit, right? And you don't know nothing. Like you said, you weren't even around back then. So stop.
Listen,
stop.
Bro.
You should.
Geechee,
can you complete this? Can you complete this? AFRICA. Go.
I don't
know. You young buck.
Oh no, Puerto Rico, Haiti, NJA, North Philly.
Hey, I was born.
Take that medallion off, yo.
I was born in '83, and we still was rocking this in '83. So
no, y'all what? Hey, you what? As a baby, as a newborn, you was rocking it in the crib.
Now listen, I already told Jared. Unfortunately, my uncle used to kick it with Bam and them, but so my family, my uncles, they DJs back in the Bronx. So I came up in this stuff.
Anyway, take that up. If you don't know the AFR, if you don't know the Stetsasonic chant,
I only know cold raps. I don't know some of them like mediocre raps. I only know the cold shit.
Listen, that's so if you can't wear that medallion, you see Jared almost exploded. He had to finish it. You gotta say it. You can't say it started without finishing. That's a mantra. See, I ain't even into spirituality, but I know if you don't complete that mantra, something bad gonna happen to you.
I knew you was reading KRS One Bible. I can tell, but
I did. Wait a minute. The Gospel of Hip Hop. I don't know where it is, but I did get it years ago and was reading it. I was very curious when he announced that he was going because at the time I was trying to riff off of right on Al Unique. I was trying to riff off of the whole argument around if hip hop is a nation, then it has to recognize itself as a colonized nation. So when he said he was coming, and as people were trying to argue around the definition of nation and all of this, when he came out with the Bible, I was like, well, this is going to add to the discussion, because if hip hop now has its organized religious text, so I got to go dig that back out again. Because I don't remember, honestly, I don't remember taking it that seriously. But I, and now he's got his Temple of Hip Hop channel. I've been scared to watch it. I got to admit, I've been scared to actually, because I went to a KRS-One lecture years ago when he came to DC and sat in the front row in a small room. And I wasn't ready. I knew I wasn't going to agree with everything, but I wasn't ready for, I just wasn't ready. So
listen. You go to KRS-One concerts, not lectures. What is wrong with you?
I know.
Are you going to go and watch Noam Chomsky bust some freestyles?
Yeah, because Norm be dropping bars though.
If Noam said he was going to do a J period mixtape, hell yeah, I would cop that.
Let me tell you, I will go and sit front row at a KRS-One Boogie Down Production Revival concert. I ain't going to no KRS-One lecture, and I'm a Boogie Down Production fan. I'm not a KRS-One fan.
I saw KRS, and I've seen him do his show at the 930 Club, in fact, and then he even did a section where he hosted a freestyle battle with people in the audience, which I thought was dope. And but then I went to the lecture, man, sat front row, man. And it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah. I can't believe it. Yeah, I went out. I didn't buy that damn book, but I went out and bought Spiritually Minded. One of the worst albums I ever heard in my life.
Did I get that one? I might not.
It was horrible. And then I went back and listened to his older albums. He has an album called Sneak Attack. And I thought the Sneak Attack was against the white man, but the Sneak Attack was against black people because that's a Christian album. Go back and listen to Sneak Attack. He totally attacked me because I went back and listened to that after I listened to Spiritual Minded. And I'm like, man, he was evangelizing me in my own face. He made me pay for my own evangelization. KRS-One, man, I never forget.
But let me tell you, dealing with the real, maybe the lectures with Teray were of value, but the lectures where he's making reference to Teray and attempting to interpret Teray for us were not of value. Because when I saw him live, his interpretation of Kwame Ture was wrong. And if your interpretation of Kwame Ture leads you to Alex Jones, you've got it wrong. So I'll just summarize it like that. So I can't vouch for what it was when he was with Ture live in person. I would have to assume Ture was able to manage that. But without Ture and referencing Ture and interpreting Ture for us, nah. Was my man in the chat? Nah, B.
So before
that's kind of like when Ice Cube was running around with Dr. Khaled. They two different people.
Oh wow, yeah,
remember them days?
Yeah,
good old days. The good old days.
Hey, look, damn, it's already 9:38. Was there something else we wanted to get to? My bad.
Yeah, we needed to get to a serious
out here, man.
The serious story, the shooting. Well, the several shootings, but particularly the shooting and a little bit of gun culture.
Oh man, yeah. I did start reading some of that book you sent us too. Or the article.
Yeah.
So do you have something you want to bring up? Do you have the link? Is there a link for us to bring up?
The only link I had, like, I guess we could start with gun culture and then talk about the story. But the only link I had was that joint of Diallo's people up in Chicago, the gun club or whatever the hell they're doing. They're taking pictures with assault rifles and Glocks and all kind of stuff. And Diallo, I don't know if you responded, but have you heard about that? But Diallo got the situation about the Missouri young boy, and
that's a lot to say.
So apparently it was like four different young people who went down the wrong road, knocked on the wrong house, opened the wrong car for a carpool, and all of them got shot. One of them, actually only one of them died. Go ahead though.
Well, I have this thing called atrocity hopping that I've been speaking out against. It's kind of I think we lose. I think the way we anticipate and engage with these atrocities is actually reinforces our oppression as opposed to challenging our oppression. And I gave a whole discussion on atrocity hopping. We have this event. We have the basically same characters, the same rhetoric. I mean, I could literally like extract newsreels from various shootings or other, dehumanizing and degrading and genocidal acts that African people endure in this country. And you wouldn't be able to tell me which event it was from because they say the same shit. We say the same things, we respond the same way, and we engage with this system over the same way. And it's not Black people going through this shit is central to this cycle. Having the ability to maim and kill Black people and then see us weep and wail and moan is part of white identity at this point. We all have our role to play. We all play and we all stick to the script. It's really disgusting. And even to go back to the one we're speaking about, the young man by the name of Yarrow in Kansas City, Missouri, that was shot by an old bigot because he went to the wrong door to pick up his two children. I mean, his two younger siblings.
Twin brother. Well, I thought it was
yes.
twin brother. Yeah.
And the first thing Black folks started doing in the media was discuss this young man's pedigree. To discuss this young man's pedigree. Every time when the brother got beat to death, they started talking about, well, he's a teacher. He's a volunteer. The young man that went to the animal shelter and played violin for the cats. Whenever they assault us, we start to discuss our pedigree as if this individual who was attacked shouldn't have been attacked because they were a good student, because they volunteered at an animal shelter, because they enjoyed music, because they were a teacher or some type of lettered professional, as opposed to Black people shouldn't be attacked. End of sentence. Period.
So tell me this, Diallo, real quick. Tell me this. I'm sorry. Do you see something like you remember when Brotham got shot and his brother went to the white officer, hugged him in court?
Yeah.
Do you see that probably playing out in this situation? Because when I was looking at it, the Buckra's grandson with cornrows, white boy, is weird. Saying, yeah, my granddad was racist. And he said some racist shit. And he's beefing with the other grandson who said granddad wasn't racist.
Right.
And the cornrow white boy was like, yo, my heart goes out to the young boy and we support him. We stand behind him. Do you see some manipulation shit about to be happening right now and Black people about to, can't we all just get along? Like, oh, look at this. This is heart wrenching.
Let me tell you something about Missouri. I shared the link in the chat. Where Missouri is a weird place. When you travel into Missouri, don't measure the distance, measure the dates. Measure the date because you're not traveling 1,500, 500 miles to get to Missouri. You're traveling 50 years in the past to get to Missouri. And I was born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri, and most of my family lives there, and I go back there. Hell, I'll be back there in a few weeks. And it is some old Jim Crow style. And not only had in 2017, did the NAACP for the first time in decade issue a statewide travel advisory for Missouri, not Florida, not Texas, not for south of the Mason-Dixon line, not Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Missouri. And my whole life growing up, I was told that Missouri was the buckle of the Bible Belt. Kansas City was the buckle of the Bible Belt because it was centrally located. And so not only did they have a travel advisory, They set up a Martin Luther King Boulevard because it was one of the only major black cities that didn't have a Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. And the city council voted in a Martin Luther King Boulevard and went all up and down what was formerly Paseo, which is, and what's funny about Paseo is because Paseo used to be where the black strivers lived along Paseo, because it was just before you crossed the white-black line between East and West Missouri, or East meets West, and East Missouri is poor and black, my side of the town, and they that dividing line really is truce. But where the affluent black people would live all up and close enough to the white folks to be close enough to the finer things, but not too far from the poor black masses. And they changed that to Martin Luther King Boulevard, and a petition was circulated. And I was going into black businesses, and I saw this petition to change it back to Martin Luther King, change it back to Paseo Boulevard. And I didn't read. I looked at the petition in black businesses, and I'm like, I'm not reading this right. It's suggesting, and they took it down, first city to ever unname a Martin Luther King. And when you ask people, why did y'all take down Martin Luther King Boulevard in Missouri and Kansas City? And they were like, cause if you look around the country, Martin Luther King Boulevard is where all the poverty and violence is. And so we don't want a Martin Luther King Boulevard in Kansas City, because that's obviously causation, correlation. That's going to cause more poverty and violence. So it's a peculiar place. It's a very peculiar place. So when you go to this type of shooting and shit, yes, there's going to be a reconciliation. There's going to be prayers. There's going to be healing movements. There's going to be all the same bullshit that's going to allow people that were shaken out of their stupor to relax comfortably back into the status quo. And in Missouri,
no, I just wanted to be clear from the story, just quickly, not that it detracts from your point, but just since we shared it, that the story is from 2017. I just want to make sure people, but not that it.
Right. I said that. It was 2017.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So, but Diallo, to this point, and Jared, I definitely want to hear your response too. So you have the media, you have the community, and how we look at news and how we respond. So you'll have, they should have given that man an attempted murder charge, right? Well, the state is saying that attempted murder charge would give him less time than the charge that they already gave him. So you have the charges argument. You have the hood white grandson with cornrows saying, I'm speaking out because it's the right thing to do. You have CNN saying this is a media trope, like they're using as right-wing media trope. So you have all these different things that black people can react to. You got the conversation around gun violence and gun control, because you have multiple young people that were shot. Whenever you see all these things going on, what would you tell our people on how to maybe even decode this, what to look for and what not to get trapped into, as there's so many different stories to kind of focus on and be emotionally connected to and argue about? What should be the focus?
I think the focus for black people, I mean, Missouri is full of guns. Everybody got guns. And when I was 12 years old, and me and my homies, we would walk around the neighborhood, and we had a 357 Magnum, chrome Magnum. And we used to go to Swope Park and shoot logs, tree stumps, and shoot bottles off of railroad tracks and shit. Everybody got a gun in Missouri. And so I do think that this go to the gun solution is a problem. I do support regulation and limitations on the access to guns. I am pro gun control, and I know I've been hounded by the amosexuals, the pro gun nuts in the black community and the black liberation struggle. I mean, I've been in debates going back decades. This ain't nothing new. I mean, I made a presentation to the National Black United Front because they were trying to determine whether they wanted, way back in a decade ago or more. And I was debating, or it wasn't even a debate. It was more of a presentation with Dr. Linwood Tahi, who's on this station. And we were discussing two sides of the issue, whether or not the Black United Front and the black community should support liberalization of gun laws. making guns more easy to access, more readily available, higher caliber, larger magazines. And I was like, the Black United Front, the Black community should absolutely oppose that. And whereas other people in the Black liberation struggle was like, no, we need our Second Amendment rights. We need our guns. And I'm like, if you can show me where guns protect or make Black people safer, I will advocate for guns. But the majority of the guns in the Black community are used to kill other Black people. The majority of the guns in the white community kill mostly whites. Like Dick Gregory said again, you kill where you live. So gun control is necessary. Gun control will help us. And yes, there are racist gun policies. But can I tell you something? Black people who say gun control is racist, guess what else is racist? Gun liberalization. Gun liberalization means a gun for everybody. Look at how when the gun laws, stand your ground, castle laws, assault weapons, and gun liberalization is also racist. And I don't want to start calling names and calling people out their name. But guess what? Giving everybody a gun, they selected, even when they let everybody have a gun, guess what? It's still racist. So I don't really understand Black people who are being slaughtered wholesale. Black people, when I first moved to Chicago, I say this every time it comes across my mind. When I first moved to Chicago, shout out to Cece. She didn't move her family to Ghana. But when I first got here, sister was like, I was at a meeting and the sister was like, we're stepping over dead bodies here. When I'm walking my kids to school, I got to step over dead bodies. And I'm like, sis, I'd been here just under a year. And I'm like, sis, come on, let's be realistic. We here trying to deal with real issues. You here talking about stepping over dead bodies. And lo and behold, as I stayed here a little longer on the south side of Chicago, when I'm out with my kids early in the morning, we're stepping over dead bodies. And it's a wholesale slaughter. And these reactionaries talking about gun control is racist. Gun uncontrol, gun liberalization, a gun in every pot is also racist, because when Black people engage in their Second Amendment rights, how many Black men have lawfully carried a gun, like that one brother where he said to the officer, I have a legal gun that's in my glove compartment, and the cop unloaded 8 slugs into his body. So if we're going off of racist laws, then we can't really advocate for any laws or policies, liberal or restrictive,
right?
Because they're all racist in their enforcement. So I don't understand where we're going with this gun control is racist nonsense.
So Jared, so the same question, but you have all these things that people can argue about. The buckaroo who shot the young boy, the young Black dude, he was out on bail. The buckaroo who killed a white girl, his ass ain't getting out on bail, and he got murder charge, blah blah blah. There's a bunch of shit to argue about, but what would you suggest people focus on this whole conversation? Gun violence, gun control, Black people getting shot, kids, blah blah blah. Where would you push people towards?
So first of all, rest in peace to Dove, and shout out to the mighty De La Soul. Gun control means using both hands in my lands. No, I'm just a joke. Anyway, I'm just playing. Just shout out to De La though. I like that verse. I like that line. So generally, I think that if anyone wants to be armed, they should only be arming themselves in the context of Robert and Mabel Williams and George Jackson. Even then, because even then, if you follow, because even in that context, even if you allow yourself to play out the thought experiment of the logical conclusions of that, I think George actually engages some of that and what that would mean. And if that is something you are interested in and willing to enter into, then I think it is a legit space to discuss being armed in revolutionary politics and organization. I think that's perfectly acceptable. I do agree, to the extent I understand Diallo's point, that there are tendencies in some of those sectors of those movements to get a little bit to exaggerate the potential of being armed in this society, what that might mean in a revolutionary context. And I think there is a lot of a good amount of bloviation and chest bumping and a lack of fully thinking it out. Now, so again, I mean, but again, so this is sort of my point to Todd's point there. I'm not suggesting that you can have a revolution being unarmed. What I am suggesting is that there is a conflation of many of these. There's a confusion of what people are saying. So a lot of people, I think, when I hear, Diallo, if I understand your point, I'm hearing a lot of people in the Black community say we should all have guns. We should have guns if they have guns, but they're not doing it despite claims, I think, in the context of radical organization or with thinking out in a sort of a military strategy, what that means. It's a lot of talk, for lack of a better word. So,
and I think
go ahead.
I think it's frustrating because you have actual revolutionaries who engage in armed struggle, who also tell you that you would probably need to study before you pick up the guns. And you probably need to be serious about your analysis and theory, even for this. But you have people who are really, really, really adamant about talking about the gun. But then when you start talking about books, and now you armchair revolutionary. So it's like
that's sort of my point.
To me,
and that's my point.
Folks are really thinking about
when his comrade, I'm forgetting his name. Was it David? George Jackson's comrade that we've even interviewed. Damn, I can't. David something. I can't remember his name. My apologies. This is terrible. Maybe somebody in the chat will remind me. But he made the point when he called George Jackson the consummate revolutionary. One of the points that he was making in doing that was that it wasn't just somebody who talked trash about having arms. It was somebody who, in the most violent of contexts, talked about arming oneself, preparing oneself both intellectually, ideologically, and in terms of military strategy and history, and then also physically preparing yourself through training, et cetera, and so forth. That's sort of the point I'm getting at. So in that, for me, becomes a check on many of the problems that we confront. So this is sort of where I was going with trying to formulate a response to your question. Because there are so many things thrown at us and there are so many variables, and it can be nuanced and complicated. I think the more we're focused on what we are clear on and what our objectives are and what we need to be doing, it's easier to avoid some of the the distractions. So that's why I'm saying when it comes to the issue of arms, I'm not interested in the mainstream discussion over Second Amendment rights and this, that, and the third. I'm interested in the conversation just as we're discussing it here. Robert and Mabel Williams, George Jackson, the Black Liberation Army. If that's the context people are having that conversation, I think there's value. If it's just sort of a vague thing about white folks have guns, I want guns, I get the initial point, but it doesn't go far enough, and it certainly doesn't prepare you for what that means when they start vamping on you. I think that's where we get a little bit, So same thing when it comes to the media issue. If we're focused on being part of organizations, having a certain range of politics and analysis and goals in terms of what we want to see from society, then it's easier to understand that issues like the Second Amendment, issues, as I've mentioned earlier, whether it's abortion or gay rights, these are issues that aren't in and of themselves unimportant, but they are issues that have been selected by the most conservative elements of this society specifically to create wedges that they can more easily manipulate in terms of voting. So I think if we're anyway, so that's what when it comes to the media point about guns, this, that, and the third, I think it just helps. Anyway, that's what I think. That a lot of the discussion is outside of a certain political context and outside of an understanding of how these issues are brought to mainstream media and their purpose. And I think if we have these checks, like what are our bright line issues, what are our political standards for weapons and discussions of armed struggle, I think we're in good shape.
So because we know that AI could just misinterpret everything you said, everything Diallo said, and I know I was once in a place where especially what we call scratch offs or burners, like some of us were taught to have a gun to be safe. For instance, when I was in Kentucky, you know, there was not a lot of black people in Kentucky. There were a good bit of us that brought guns. Not and now you could think like, okay, if I have a shootout with these white boys, I'm probably not gonna win. I might hit one, but I'm probably not gonna win. And I don't think really the gun even kept me safe. And I guess when we do the interview, the gun almost put me in jail for a long damn time too in Kentucky too. So what are you not saying in terms of, hey, but don't you want the black boys to protect themselves and
Stupid
like,
as hell.
yeah, go ahead.
Let me say this. First of all, there's a guy, and I don't want to call him out by name, but we can have him on the show. I'm not trying to disrespect you. He's like the Chicago gun guru. He is the Chicago gun guru. He teaches lessons and he does instructions, does retreats. The Chicago gun guru, if you go to his YouTube page or go to his social media, and he has instructions on how to shoot, on how to maintain a weapon, on how to obtain weapons, what weapons to obtain. He also has instructions on how you engage with agents of the state when they engage you with your weapon. And he has video of himself being pulled over by a cop. And he hadn't done anything wrong. His rights were being violated. And guess what happened to the Chicago gun guru when his rights were being violated? He turned on his camera and put both his hands up like this. And he was like, I'm instructing y'all. Remember what I told y'all. Whenever the police pull you over, you put both your hands up. You show in the most submissive, non-threatening. You identify your weapon. You tell your cop what weapon you have, what caliber, whether it's loaded or unloaded. You get butt, booty, ass naked when the authorities approach you. The guns in the community are there to protect what little shit we've accumulated from other black people who have not been in a position to accumulate the same shit. And I'm not saying you can't protect your shit with your gun. I, here in Chicago, on the South Side, Bronzeville, I mean, I think it's the greatest neighborhood in Chicago and in most cities I've lived in. I've had my shit. Not only has my place been broken into and shit stolen, I saw a dude up and down the street with shit that was stolen in my house a week later. And let me tell you, in all those situations, I prefer to get the insurance claim and replace what was stolen. When I saw that brother, I didn't go threaten that brother. I didn't go, and even though I am a gun owner, I got legit weapons. I would not brandish my weapons. I went up to the brothers and said, look, that's mine. And it was taken from the room. And he was like, listen, brother, I bought this off the street. And he gave me my shit back. No violence, no threat of violence. And I'm not saying it's not all scenarios, but if I would rather the dude just run off with that shit than me have to take his life or put myself in a position where my life is being taken. And so these guns in our community, most times that they're being used is against us. And most of the time we're using the guns to protect our petty shit that we can just make a simple claim. They're not to protect lives. They're not to protect our people. I know we have that fantasy, but more likely than not, it's protect fiat and petty property that could be easily replaced, where we're risking our lives or taking up. And let me say one more thing about these revolutionary fantasizers, about guns being revolutionary. If you study any revolutionary guerrilla movement against an entrenched, established state or power or military, the first thing they tell you to do is forget about conventional weapons. You cannot rely on conventional weapons. It's asymmetric warfare, guerrilla asymmetric warfare. Getting weapons and holding territory and all that shit doesn't come to the end. It's about sabotage. You better off. If I'm going into some revolutionary struggle, I'd rather go with an electrician and an engineer than some goons armed with the best handguns or rifles available to us in the streets.
With your African MacGyvers, I hear you.
Exactly, because they do more. So it is about disruption. It is about agitation. It is about subversion. It is about supply lines, and you can do more harm to the systems and institutions in a guerrilla state, and you can go to a hardware. You're better off going to a hardware Home Depot than you are to. So even if you want to say, well, my gun, I ain't gonna kill my brothers and sisters. This is about fighting the government. This is about fighting. In that scenario, like I said, you're better off with a well stocked tool chest and competency on how systems and institutions and infrastructures work than you are with guns, because these people,
I felt like,
let me tell you. And so even however you want to approach this, from personal protection, your personal protection in this society is better covered by having health, life, and renters or homeowners insurance than it is by a gun. And that's by the facts. And somebody asks, oh, how do you know gun regulation? Just go look at the Brady Bill and the stats relating to the Brady Bill. And I know we got our fantasies, but Black people are fucking bleeding out. I worked in level 1 trauma centers. I've seen Black youth bodies ripped apart by bullets. I'm not speaking just from theory. I've seen it. I've seen like with how the hospitals in the Black community. I've worked in trauma centers in Kansas City, Missouri, and Brooklyn, New York, and Queens, and I've worked on the front lines of the after effects of all this amosexuality and these amosexuals. I've seen the aftermath. I've worked in the clinics where young Black men's bodies, for every Black person that is killed by bullets, there are literally dozens who are maimed for life. Wheelchairs, having their intestines removed, trying to operate off of 1.5 lungs or 1/4 liver. This gun shit really, for us to be so flippant about, yeah, we got to strap up and all that. No, there are serious reverberating consequences to this delusion, and mimicking these white people and their Second Amendment delusions. We need appropriate and sensible regulation of the weapons. And we, within our culture and community, outside of the official laws and policies, we need to rediscuss and reevaluate what guns mean to us. Because when you go to the gun store and buy your gun, you're more likely going to be shooting some poor, hungry Black kid than you are a Klansman or a Nazi with that goddamn gun. And the statistics bear that out. So aside from your fantasies, in the real material reality, Black people are being ravaged by guns. And it's not just the presence of the guns, but the mentality and the ideology surrounding guns needs to be adjusted. It's not revolutionary.
So real quick, Jared, like I think the same people who have this idea that, we can outspend the capitalists and outspend the state and whatever, also sometimes say that in our current conditions, we can outshoot the police or the military. And I want you to respond to that and kind of what people are saying in the chat. But also I remember when Takeoff got killed, there's a video of Quavo riding around the city. Yeah, we're in Houston, and he got a gun in the chair. So it's kind of like he had a gun, and I mean, not to say that I hope that don't come up back, but his gun couldn't save Takeoff, and I'm not sure that if it couldn't save Takeoff there.
No, but the point I was trying to make is, and I'm not sure of the timing of the placement of the comments on screen with what Diallo was saying, but to my point, the timing works perfectly, because the point I was trying to make is that this is what I see happening all the time. I don't hear Diallo arguing, and Diallo, you obviously correct me if I'm wrong. I don't hear Diallo saying, don't arm yourself. I don't hear him addressing that at all. I hear him addressing the broader issues of whether it's policy, and I don't know if I agree with that part, or issues of what value is being armed to the community, and what value to these fantasies, so in other words, and that's sort of my point. So that's why I keep saying, if we stay focused on what is, to me at least, by my standards, important, we avoid some of that. If you want to have a gun, if your argument is if you're having a reaction to Diallo or anything, and you're saying the hyperbole or this or that, then have your guns. But my point is, if the focus on those guns is not radical organization, military strategy, Robert Mabel Williams, George Jackson, that lane, then I don't find any real value in it. And then the hyperbole is on the other side. And it's just, I got guns, they got guns, we can go at it. Well, you're not. So one of my favorite, I feel like I've won this exchange. I don't think this person would agree, but years ago, my simple response to the question of we should have guns and this and that, and we can stand off with the police and this and that, was to sort of what Diallo was pointing earlier. Once I got the question in that exchange beyond an initial standoff for a particular purpose, where I do find there could be a value, the question of holding territory, and then I simply raised the question of supply lines. And I felt like it was a mic drop situation, because if you're not thinking tactically about a specific moment, or if you're not thinking tactically in terms of armaments beyond conventional weapons, and if you're not thinking tactically beyond, or if you think you're attempting to think tactically in terms of permanent holding of territory, then I was like, so what are your supply line issue? Like, this has brought down entire major armies and civilizations, and where are you, where are these? To your sense of amosexuality, where is the ammo going to keep coming from? You're not manufacturing it. You're not, so where is it? So eventually the bullets are going to run out. They got the supply lines. So then what? And then in that point, there was no conversation about unconventional weaponry, guerrilla warfare, none of that. It just goes back to, well, Jared, you're not real. And kind of like what Killer Mike said to me that one time, can you live off the land? You got guns?
but I was going to ask the question, but you already answered it. But because there's this idea of, if they unarm us, they're going to have the monopoly on violence. Like,
they already do.
Nigga,
they already do.
And to Diallo's point, where is this massive armed standoff with the police or the National Guard or the invading military? That's sort of what my point is. And then even some of these conversations I've had with people off the record, where I'm unimpressed is both ideologically and else, but is in the tactics. Like, so what is the, so like I keep saying, this is why I can't wait till we do it on this platform. But when we go back and read George Jackson, there is real thought about this. We may not agree, we may not feel comfortable with it, whatever, but there's real thought about that. And that's sort of the lane I'm encouraging if the discussion is going to be about gun. I'm not interested in Second Amendments. I'm not interested in policy even necessarily. I'm interested in where we are organizationally in our analysis, and then what we think we're going to be doing with these weapons, because that way we avoid what I think Diallo and Geechee, you both are raising as legitimate issues. I don't want to just shoot another poor Black person stealing food or my laptop. I'm not interested in that. So anyway,
and that's what most of the guns go to. Even the guns that are RBG guns. I'm not anti-gun. I've been a gun owner since before it was legal for me to own a gun, since I was 12 years old. But I've never been a gun advocate. I've never been a gun promoter. I've never been a Second Amendment fundamentalist, because I live in the real goddamn world. And I know, first of all, what is more important than absolutely anything, and Amos Wilson articulated this better than I could, but it's ideology. That's first of all. Before we talk about any guns or anything, what is your ideology that's under the gun? Because that's really more important than all the armaments, because you've got well-armed populations and nations that got very backwards and regressive ideas about world and social relations and economics. And those guns, like I said, most of the guns in our community are harming us. And a lot of people, Black people in a relatively comfortable positions out here advocating for, we need to arm ourselves. A lot of these artists and prominent Negroes who got bodyguards. Farrakhan, who has his own personal army and bodyguards, and wherever he goes, in every city he goes to, he also, like when he went to Kansas City, Missouri, he had a police escort, can get on stage and talk about the gangs are our frontline soldiers and the gangs, and advocate all this gun lunacy. They are not our teachers. Stop mimicking these goddamn rednecks and crackers. What the fuck? The gun culture in the Black community is obscene. My great-grandfather had a double-barrel shotgun posted up next to his bed. I am not afraid of guns. I'm not anti-gun, but I'm anti-Black people being corrupted by white people's death urge, this death cult of America. So I'm saying, let's properly assess what the tool, Let's properly assess and bring it down to earth and be realistic about the limits of Black people being armed with conventional weapons in our homes and communities outside of any type of standing, ongoing armed conflict or revolutionary uprising.
Diallo, would you say you're being fair when it comes to how gun culture is in the Black community, how we look at guns, and are you focusing on the reality of, or do you believe that majority of Black people carry guns for protection, and the only reason why they have this aggressive posture is to avoid victimization, so it could be?
I think that's bullshit. I think that's bullshit, and here's why. Let me tell you some stories from what I know. And, you know, bro, if you're watching this, I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm just trying to articulate. But I knew a brother who was well armed and in the streets. And if anybody fucked with him, was going to catch it, right? But then he decided, I want to get my family out of the hood. And he bought a house in an affluent, predominantly white neighborhood that was occupied by dentists and physicians and college professors. And he put his hood family, got his family out of the hood, put them in a beautiful, affluent neighborhood. And they didn't want him in there because it was very obvious that how he was able to pay virtually buy this house by cash, but he didn't even buy it. The house was purchased by his baby mama's mother, bought the house in her name, but he gave her all the cash up front. And the people in that neighborhood burned his fucking house down. And this is a cat that if you touched his car in the Black community, the whole hood could get it. If you put a finger on his car, but they burned down his house that he purchased for his growing family, trying to get away from the violence. And he took his paperwork, his insurance claim, took it and filled out the paperwork and got his insurance claim and moved back to the hood. What no retribution. Up in Kansas City, I would talk to dudes like, yeah, you know, my number's up. I done did this violations. The dudes are coming for me. Kansas City has higher rates per capita gun violence than Chicago. Kansas City is well armed. We didn't have decent schools. We didn't have nutritious foods. We didn't have adequate housing. But one thing Kansas City had an abundance of when I was growing up there, and to this day, was video game weapons, military-grade weapons. The Black community in Kansas City is well armed. And that white man that shot that unarmed Black child is going to sleep comfortably. But the young Black man that didn't come up, was short on count, could get his whole house shot up. You know, I've stood there watching drive-bys with my own eyes. I've seen it. Like I said, this gun shit, the rhetoric is cool. But having been on the front lines, whether it's treatment, whether it's living in communities, raising 2 Black children in the Black community, 2 Black boys, and every day they step out that house on their skateboards, I got to think, you know, the guns are every fucking where. And y'all, for people to sit and talk cute about this shit, what we gonna do when the man come? Yeah. Man, fuck that bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. The guns need to be regulated. And the Black community needs to fucking check ourselves, because our rhetoric is nothing more than a bastardization of the white people's death urge. We are imitating and mimicking people who have a death urge. Their own psychologists, from Freud to their social scientists, Derek Jensen. This culture has a death urge. And not only are we adopting it, we're spreading it to other parts of the world. We got Crips and Blood on the African continent and throughout the Caribbean. That's a whole thing with Honduras, is dealing with a bunch of Hondurans who came to the United States, got infused with the U.S. death urge and gun culture, and then got exported back to Honduras and wreaking havoc. So no, yeah, I want sensible regulation. I want internal regulation, and I want federal official regulation. And that ain't because I'm anti-revolutionary. It's because I am a true revolutionary. And the first and fundamental thing of revolutionary is love of the people. And ain't no fucking way you can watch Black children getting slaughtered across this nation, and then you just got a flippant or dismissive attitude like, yeah, I'm going to get my gun. I'm going to get mine. And ain't one cop, you know. And one more thing. Look at what white folks understand. Malcolm X went all over this country telling black people to arm themselves and calling the white man not a devil, but the devil. Went all over this country during the height of Jim Crow, talking about guns, arming, talking about kill. Remember, he said, kill the dog. If the white man put the dog on you, kill the dog. And you better off saying kill his wife than kill his dog. That's his best friend. When did they really start to deem Malcolm a threat? When he became a Pan-Africanist, when he left that armed cult. Not because they didn't kill Malcolm because he was advocating that black people arm themselves and black people defend themselves using the equal or greater level of violence against white people that they use against us. They went after Malcolm because Malcolm became a secular Pan-Africanist. They was like, whoa, now he's a threat. Same thing with Dr. King. Dr. King was telling black people to disarm themselves. They were scared as fuck as Dr. King. They tried to put everybody around Dr. King on the government payroll because they were so afraid of him. And this dude refused to have a gun. So obviously they don't fear our guns.
Actually, that's not true. Dr. King had
he had a gun.
Yeah,
he had a gun.
That's not true. Dr. King had guns, and Dr. King himself had to be talked into not using them when his house was attacked. But that's
not what Kwame Ture said, but okay.
Well,
all that aside.
Actually, I don't know that Ture. Okay, no. but whatever, even if Ture didn't have that right, I mean, the facts are the facts. I mean, that is what happened, but
all I'm saying is we are coming off some
and to Todd's point too, Dr. King also had shooters in league with the deacons and others. But more offensive to me, this is sort of the point I was getting at when Ricky's comment gets put up there, Geechee. Ricky, this is sort of the point I was getting at and where I get most frustrated. Stop ignoring me. Pay more attention to me when I'm talking than the chat, because I already answered Ricky's question. My comments were specific to the point Ricky said is not being addressed. So you know, y'all gonna stop. Y'all gonna stop. I thought we already buried the hatchet on this program today. I thought we cleared all of this. Y'all gonna stop coming on here and disrespecting me live on the show when I'm saying, no, I'm just playing. Anyway, no, I'm just playing. It don't matter. But I do think, now I just joked myself out of my own point. Never mind. Go ahead, Geechee. My bad.
Again, the civil rights, black people always had guns. When they were lynching us, we always had guns. There was never a time that black people didn't have guns after Reconstruction. Black people would have starved by and large if it wasn't for the guns we had. But the guns are not what transformed our condition or advanced us. It was the ideology.
I agree. That's correct.
It is ideology. And the ideology's fucked up right now. The ideology's fucked up. I'm going to get mine, this individualism. At the same time, when you talk about, they had guns during the civil rights. I never said they didn't have guns during civil rights. I said the intelligence agency, if you read their own writings, they never was like, whoa, these colors got guns. They were like, these colors are uniting with foreign are adopting guns. They were up mad at Fred for fucking with communism and bringing communism and socialism and going to talk to Mao and going to talk to Castro. They were not afraid of his guns. They were afraid of us awakening. They selling. Who do you think is profiting from our gun culture? They'll sell you whatever gun you want. They got YouTube stars with millions of views. Y'all seen that Black Rambo guy? That Black Rambo?
No. Go ahead.
Whatever, man. Okay. All right.
No, but I'm not disagreeing with you, Geechee. I'm just making fun of the fact that I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, Diallo. I'm just making fun of the fact that we skipped Geechee again.
No, it was cool. No, I mean, I did ask the question, and maybe I'm like using my lived experience as my analysis that a lot of cats got guns because they think that they need to not get caught slipping or lacking, as the streets say. And again, anytime that I have carried guns, it was with the idea that if something go down, at least I'm gonna get one of these motherfuckers to go out here with me, right? And so, but I also, and a lot of people around me and people I know, like, again, they're saying I'm gonna do this with my gun. I'm gonna do this with my gun. So I'm not sure that Yes, most of the guns are being used. Like, I do agree, most of the guns are being used on each other. Like, so the same cats that's busting off hair, shooting at I got people who been shooting at each other's houses since they've been little. They older brothers are doing it. They go up and they killing each other. Ain't never took it to the white boys ever. I'm just talking about them particular, because some people do. So I could agree that, yeah, you know, most of the guns are being used.
And even to say that, using it on ourselves, it's not even like Nipsey was killed by another Crip. He wasn't killed by blood or folks. He was killed by his own gang. My oldest brother is a quadriplegic. He was shot by one of his best friends in the same gang. Pomona Crip. It's not even like opposing forces. And it is because of the mentality. My main problem is how the mentality that provokes our actions, the mentality that is rest underneath these positions, these public positions and attitudes, that Black people have a visceral response when you say, well, there should be some gun control. Wait, we really have been warped enough to believe that owning guns is synonymous with freedom. And if I want to oppress people, and I got them believing that this random thing is central to their freedom and even a substitute for their freedom, I got you. Because they're profiting on us left and right. They profit when we buy the guns. They profit when we use the guns. They profit from incarcerating us behind the guns. They profit from our bodies being maimed and destroyed and crippled, and from death or permanently injured by guns. They making money off of the white man gets paid off of all of that. And aside from that, there is no freedom, justice, stability, or safety coming from the gun. And we don't fuck all the facts. I just know it's my right to have a gun that the white man gave me that I'm going to exercise. And you push all that aside. It's just mind-boggling to me. But like I said,
so that, again, so to Coco, when Coco's question gets put up there, that's sort of, again, my point. So like, even though his name, you know, when he was evoked, when Dr. King was asked about the violence of Black people against other Black people, he said he called these crimes as he referred to them as derivative of the society's crimes that begin with capital and white supremacy and so on and so forth. So that's sort of my point, that if the focus is on the organization, on the politics, on the ideas, on the behind the gun, then I think that any discussion of the gun becomes more valuable and moves beyond the intentionally narrowed discussions of amendments and authorizations and rights and so on and so forth. So
I remember when Che Guevara came to Harlem. And the first thing Black folks wanted to know is about guerrilla warfare tactics. And Che Guevara said, if I was a citizen or resident of the United States, I wouldn't go with the gun. So where the brother just said they are oppressing us with guns. And I see they are oppressing us with legislation. They defunding and closing down our schools. They are using this to oppress us. The pen, y'all ever heard that pen is mightier than the sword?
Yeah, but I would argue, and I would have, especially with the 2020 vision that I have, the benefit of it, I would have said to Che, but you haven't lived long enough to read George Jackson yet. And because I'm still convinced that, so this is sort of my point, and I get your point, Diallo, but this is the point I keep getting. I want to point to, at least. I don't think I can fully make it on YouTube, but this is the point I want to point to. Or even the end of Syriana, the film Syriana, that there is, if there is political clarity, the discussions, these discussions take on a different tone. And I think in that, I don't remember that specific incident you're referring to, Diallo, but to the extent that what you relayed there is accurate in Che's engagement, I would. Looking, especially now, I would say, you know, unfortunately, Che, you were assassinated before George was assassinated. Had you read George and reconsidered your point, I think he might have had a different conversation when he was in Harlem.
I disagree, because I've read Che Guevara's guerrilla warfare, and I've read Blood in My Eye, and I don't think.
And Che wasn't talking about the United States, and he wasn't talking about Black America.
Yes, but he was asked about the United States.
Right.
He
Before
normally
meeting
he
George,
didn't
and that's my
volunteer.
point.
He didn't. Okay. All
So
I'm
what-
saying is,
so
black
was
people,
Amilcar Cabral asked
let me
about the
let me
US?
say, I've been all over this country, and I've been in heavily armed Black communities that have a very staunch Second Amendment homosexual point of view, and I've been in one thing I say that divides Black communities that have some level of power, security, stability, and able to push back against hostile entities and hostile agendas. It's not who has the most guns. It's who has the greatest level of cooperation, coordination, and organization. And then the guns can be a tool that can be brought out when necessary, or put away when necessary, when it need be. So
Hence George Jackson. That's
yeah,
my point.
I'm not deflecting for George Jackson, but what I'm saying is I'm speaking to the larger community, because I'm seeing this gun culture in the Black community. I've been here when the Black community was when early parts of the movement, where people were like, put the gun down, we're all in the same game, stop the violence and no to guns, and put the gun down. And then now we are at the stage everybody's like, nah, pick up the gun. And these cycles come, and the thing that I see most reflective of that is white people are going on a murder orgy, a gun murder orgy, and Black people's like, we keep following these goddamn crackers down their paths to self-destruction, instead of just taking a moment to step back and say, hey, what does the gun mean to us? How does it serve us? How does it harm us? How can we rework our relationship? How do we better exercise our rights to own a gun? And how do we maneuver underground, regardless of what the white man gives up permission to or deny us access to? How do we work around this? There's never really been, it's just been this blanket guns plus a revolutionary. We need guns, and how we going to have revolution with guns? And I'm like, you don't even have the other components necessary for revolution, the non-dangerous. You don't even do the academic, to study the groundwork. And I just don't believe somebody who can't just do the people who don't do the non-gun work, where bullets aren't whizzing over your heads, the feds aren't hunting you down, and your face isn't on a wanted poster all over the world. You're not doing the necessary work, but you're going to make this leap to revolutionary armed insurgent. And you can't even be a revolutionary community-based community organizers. You can't even come to rational conclusions. I think most of the guns in the conscious community and most of the guns in the larger Black community are tied more to fantasies and delusions than practical strategies and practical actions. That's my problem. I say all of this as a gun owner.
So it sounds like you made, whenever you said, what did you say? Not a regulation, gun regulation. You was talking about internally and not government, because I saw people.
I'm saying both. I'm saying both.
Well,
if there was,
let me finish then. Let me finish this question then. So, like for instance, in the children and the young people who get shot, there were certain things that the state could do that people will cheer and be happy about, right? So your person just got killed, and then the state says something, we're gonna do this, and you cheer about it. Living in a country who settles all its disputes with some type of gun violence, gun violence, like how are you saying, like, what is the state? What do you think the state can do to help us with this situation? And why do you think that's a solution?
This is not a government that settles all its disputes with some type of gun violence.
I said violence or gun. So it could be violence with a gun, but it also could be other. Like I think a lot of the public policy is violent.
I think in this society we're caught up in the bleed. If it bleeds, it leads. We're caught up in it, and it bleeds, it leads. These crackers do more harm to us in boardrooms and in legislative bodies than they do.
That's what I'm calling that violence. I'm calling that violence.
Okay, now so we're gonna. Yeah. Okay, now I didn't know we were working with such a broad range. Poverty is violence. Okay, but I'm talking specifically about how to counter actions against our community. Many of the actions taken against our community can't. It's like you evictions. I was working with the when I first moved to Chicago, the Chicago anti-eviction campaigns. And there were literally old ladies having their wheelchairs repossessed and thrown out on the streets. And us unarmed activists were out there saving people from being evicted while their sons and grandsons was in the streets fully armed. But they didn't show up to keep their grandma from being evicted from her house. So again, all I'm saying is, and it's charged because again, I think most of our attitudes about guns does not come from George Jackson or Che Guevara or any of the other militant armed faction. I think most of our guns comes from the right-wing NRA propaganda. It comes from Killer Mike, who's on the payroll of the NRA. And if you have a tool available to you, and the tool does immeasurable harm to your community and profits your oppressor, no matter how much you love that tool, at the very least, you should need to step back and reevaluate that tool. And people want research. And yes, I hate to say it. I hate Ronald Reagan's guts. I wish hell was real so he could be burning there. But the Brady gun bill did make some moves towards reducing the level of gun violence, and black men, especially the main proponents and cheerleaders for all this homosexual delusion.
So you're saying there was value in Reagan being shot?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I just wish the shooter had a better aim. But beyond that, well, no, actually, it was more value in Brady getting shot, his press secretary, because it was the Brady bill and Brady family. Actually, Reagan didn't learn shit, you know.
No, but Brady being shot alone wouldn't have gotten the bill. Reagan had to go down too. So, but I got your point.
And that was George Bush behind that, right?
That's what John Judge used to tell me. He said it was
dirty game. Dirty game.
It was the competing factions of the ruling elite, and he took it all the way back to the oil traditions. He was like, I remember parts of the conversation. It was fascinating, and shout out to the late John Judge. The whole thing, he was the whole Bush family and the Hunt family and the oil and the Bush family wing of the elite versus the Reagan Hunt oil version of the elite, something like that. And it was the competing wings. And Reagan had been the hired spokesperson of one of the wings, and Bush with that CIA, Nazi world dominion.
The Bush family,
son.
That's why you found, when George Bush Sr. was in that wheelchair, and Michelle was twerking up on him in his wheelchair, and George Bush Jr. was hand feeding Michelle hard candies in the tabernacle. Michelle has a real fetish for war criminals. I don't understand for international war criminals, but anyway, all I'm saying, I didn't lost. I think I've buried myself enough because I know how you folks is. But let me just say this. One of the first things I do when I go to a community is I had this thing here called the slingshot shootout, where I would have black people come together with slingshots and paintballs. Not even paintball guns. Because what I was trying to say is that black people, we do need a martial culture, martial arts, martial mentality, militarist stance. I support that, but that's not a fucking gun. A gun is not what? Because the martial culture, the art of war predates the guns. Before guns existed, this martial. So I do advocate. I organize around developing those disciplinary mentality and tactics. I'm not against the martial arts. I'm not against martial culture. I'm not against weapons and arms. I'm not anti-violence. Yes, I'm very anti-violence. I am a tree-hugging vegan, but I respect and accept the necessity of violence in relationship to not just our liberation, but to securing ourselves on a day-to-day basis. But we want to skip ahead of a lot of shit. And I don't care if you join the U.S. military or you join the Black Panther Party. Any rational formation that's seeking to secure and develop and cultivate and maintain institutions, they're going to give you some instruction. And not just technical instruction, but ideological instruction before they give you a weapon. So even if you are the most pro-gun black person in the black community, you're skipping ahead of a lot of shit if you're at guns. If you going straight to, hey, here's a weapon, young man. Not even the Black Panthers or even the Black Liberation Army did that. So I don't understand. I mean, like like you said, I don't even see where the conflict is. But y'all stay mad at me and pretend like I want to take your guns from your cold dead hands. Go ahead, y'all just go with that.
What was the question? Why do we talk like we can't do multiple things? Oh, okay. No, I don't think that. Maybe I misunderstood the question, but I don't think that's what's been.
I think they're saying you need to read a book and be shooting at the same time. That's what I think. That's what she was trying to.
You can't do multiple things at the same time because you can't say, well, let's put on the roof and dig the foundation at the same goddamn time. There are several things that cannot be done in concert. Certain things that are part of a process, of a cultivative process. I'm gonna plant the seed and harvest at the same damn time. So what I'm saying is the soil is depleted and dead, and the gun is the harvest. So yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're getting ahead of ourselves. So some things we can't do simultaneously. Like I do believe that you can be spiritual or religion and secular and cooperate and coordinate and pull resources and come together, even though you have some fundamental differences. I believe you can do that at the same time. But as far as have a martial armed community without doing the necessary ideological training, ideological grounding and understanding, and bring about the cohesion and the connections that people need to be able to be armed without cannibalizing each other, you can't do do that shit at the same time. I'm sorry. So yeah, certain things need to be done systematically and according to a process, a timeline.
Well, speaking of timelines and systematic, I think we have to systematically bring this timeline to an end for this morning.
That's clever. Oh, okay, that was
at
clever.
the same damn time. At the same
damn time.
Oh, that was smooth. Yeah.
Anyway, fellas, anything you want to let us know about or lead the people with? Heads up for the weekend. You know what's going on. It's Friday. It's nice weather, at least over here on the Mid-Atlantic.
So let me invite y'all to Diallo's gun training program. We said all
shots and paintballs.
Diallo's Gun Club.
He said all that shit just to get y'all to sign up for his course. He got a course in Chicago this weekend.
Yes, and when the police come, get butt naked. That's my gun training. When the authorities come, get butt naked. With all that gun, all that rhetoric, all that ammo, when the pot-bellied, out of shape, donut stained, coffee breath cop comes to you and say, "Hey, boy, get butt naked."
Run! He got a gun, but you got a gun too. But still run.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, yeah, I can't shoot. Fine. And let me tell y'all one more thing about these guns. Y'all need to, when y'all do go to the gun range, wear a rebreather mask and gloves because that lead residue is a serious issue. Because I see a lot of these homosexuals. I can say they act like they got lead poison.
Jerry, I don't know if you noticed the reason why Diallo goes so hard against preachers, because I think he really want to be one. Because if you really think the way he lay out his homiletics, the way he got the comedy, he got them hard things, and then he said last word. Because the preacher always says you're gonna go. The dude be doing some preacher type stuff, but Pastor Diallo.
I think at the risk of extending the show, I think Coco raised a good question that I think she raised it more than once about Diallo's apparent emphasis on the state's structures for holding us in check. Mm-hmm. But anyway, yeah. I'm not advocating that either. I'm not. That's why my focus is I'm almost never interested in Second Amendment rights, regulations, all that kind of stuff. I'm more interested in the organizational capacity and use and function of all these things. But Diallo, do you want to say anything about that at all? About this whole thing of it's still the white man's state that you're asking to put regulations on?
Absolutely. Yes. I want the white man. I appreciate the state taking lead out of the gasoline. I appreciate the state taking the flame retardants out of our children's pajamas. Yes, there are certain things that the state is capable of doing. And there are certain, I appreciate the public school and the public health infrastructure. Shout out to food stamps. Shout out to housing vouchers. I am not one of those people. I am not a libertarian. I do believe that there's certain things that we can demand of the state, even as we oppose and work to overtake or subvert the state. There are certain institutional things on a local politics level, on a regional political level, everything, and even on a federal level. Yes, I do support sensible regulations. I want my aunt, my cousins and them to get they insulin at $15 a shot as opposed to $150 a shot. So regulating and making certain things. Yeah, I mean, let's keep it real. That's why I'm secular. I don't, when it comes to revolution and black empowerment and liberation and just black people. And another thing, we can't go to people saying we want to liberate you when we don't pay any attention to your day-to-day struggle. And we want you to embrace this grand idea of Pan-African revolution and Pan-African unification and Pan-African revolution. But we don't care about how you get your insulin or whether or not your goddamn grandkids can go to school without bullets flying over their heads. So yes, we do have to speak to the day-to-day needs of the people as we struggle for grand, visionary, multi-generational goals. When you want to talk about the same time, that's something we can do at the same time. We can get the lead out of the water and work to make sure Flint water crisis gets addressed through both activism and legislative means. They didn't go to Flint and put a gun to black people's head and say, drink leaded water. They did that in a legislative body. That was a political decision, not even an environmental decision. So yes, we have to do both. That's the thing we have to do at the same time. Deal with the immediate issues plaguing our people as we fight for larger, more grand goals. That's the same time.
Yeah, I'm here for the Coco and Ricky show too. I can't wait to be in their chat.
Yeah, me too. Let's sign it up. Hey, but speaking of Coco and Ricky, now this weekend while I eat fruits and drink water and eat watermelons and take naps, I'm really trying to find the argument that doesn't attack each other and speak reductively to each other. The difference between the Catalyst group and the vanguard or the dictatorship of the proletariat. Like, because again, I'm a novice. I don't know a bunch of shit, but when I'm reading as much as I can about the two, they sound like the same and they arguing about words. So if somebody has some really laid out comparisons or whatever of the two, that's what I would love to see. So that's what I'm looking for this weekend, along with relaxing. But I really want to know, again, especially based off of that conversation that Coco had with the brother. I just would like to see the two, because it seems like, especially in Lorenzo's books and then what William has been saying and then what I've heard, it seems like they are kind of saying similar things, and they kind of saying they similarly trying to get to the same end result. And the people who's supposed to lead the unorganized or help organize or galvanize the unorganized people, they're kind of calling them two different things. And I don't know. So whoever got some of that, send me some of that shit.
Let's keep doing it. We keep having the conversations here. I love it. And tomorrow is the earth-shattering, world-changing Hickory Ridge Village Center board election. So I have my last candidate gathering tonight. Little public, go shake some hands and kiss some babies. And so, you know, you never know. Maybe I'm not going to be here next week. I might be too, you know, too important to make it back here if I'm on the Hickory Ridge Village board. But you know, we'll see. So anyway,
just send one of your subordinates.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Hi, I'm here on behalf of Minister Ball. I'm going to be. He sent me with some notes.
I'm here to provide his
greetings. He sends his best wishes and regards to the EYL audience. Yeah, oh my God. Anyway, look, good people. I always appreciate it. Thanks to the remixers. Thanks to my colleagues and comrades on the screen and those off the screen. Peace if you're willing to fight for it, like Fred Hampton used to say. We'll catch you next time here at Earn Your Liberation and throughout the BPM platform, where you can continue to engage with all of us. So
right.
Peace. Take care next time, everybody. Take it easy.
All right. Peace.